All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Friday, which means we're at the end of the week, but we are another day closer to the NFL draft. Last night started putting a lot of work in, getting some videos ready to start releasing over the weekend. I'm excited to get through the last bit of pro days and finally figure out where some of these players are going to start landing in my top 36. But right now we'll be doing the top 25 over the weekend, and then we'll keep motoring forward. This morning's kind of a light schedule, but we're going to be talking about the NFL rules, the Kirk Cousins impact in Vegas, what's going on with the refs, the impact on the game there. It is the number one pick available with this Kirk Cousins saga, if you will. Did a video on it last night kind of discussing why there could be a potential, maybe why not, and then some players that are kind of making a rise here with their pro days, especially Jamad McCoy. We're going to talk about all that and more as soon as we get right back here in 10 seconds.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again. That's a big-time play.
All right, you know what it is, Eric, man. Good morning. It's Friday. How are you?
I'm excellent.
Sounds like you had an issue like I normally do with weather last night. No power, no internet. Yeah, those aren't fun days.
Yeah, the Mackinac Bridge is closed. We got like, I don't know, half an inch of ice on everything. Everything is just covered in ice. Everything. And we're supposed to get another blast of this tomorrow.
I don't envy you, man.
Going to be fun. Well, at least we didn't get the 3 to 6 inches they were calling for. We just got ice and rain. So the snowbanks have really taken a hit. And the one in front of my house is almost down to the level of my roof.
We had probably 3 inches of rain over the last couple of days. It seems like, man, it's just been raining like crazy. And I'm looking outside and I got these willow bushes that I installed last year and they're already like 9 foot tall.
Oh man.
And I didn't know that I could like clip them and make new ones, simply just clipping them and sticking them in the ground. Like they root that good. So I'm going to have, I don't know, maybe 120 new willow plants and shit. Like that's how excited I am about willow trees, man. Like I don't know. I got so much yard to cover, so much fence to cover that the new owner of this house will enjoy it. So I'll get it done for him.
I'm excited about one more thing.
What's that?
So I got a very special something in the mail yesterday. One I'm wearing, and the other one I got right here. This is the new draft hats. And in person, man, they're awesome. And they fit like a glove. They fit like they're supposed to. They don't sit super high in your head, and they're not like there's no space around my ears or the back of my head, and it actually fits down on my head.
Maybe your head shrunk.
I don't know. I got a huge noggin, 7 3/4. So,
you know what they say about people with big heads?
They got small feet.
No, they just wear big hats.
Yeah, I got big shoes.
Yeah, there you go.
I wear 13s.
You know, let me see if I even have a chat this morning. I apologize. Like, I'm hoping that this was the last of the many updates. It seems like everybody does it at the same time, and they all love to do it at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't have a chat. Look at that. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, K Bazaar brings up a good point about these draft hats. He says $55 for this hat.
They used to be $35 just 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. They are milking us for everything they can. And you guys can't see it, but behind me on this wall, I have over 100 Detroit Lions hats up on the wall. And so you know that I love collecting hats because they're cheaper than jerseys, and I have a jersey addiction as well. But the hats were always cheap, you know. They were $32 for they were usually $29.99 for the snapbacks and the flex fit. And then the actual fitted hats like this were $35. So it made it really easy to collect a bunch of them. And now $55. I couldn't believe the price. It was 52 or 55.
Yeah, $55, man. I didn't order any yet. I mean, I might. I mean, I have to. Like, I always have to get at least one, but I wanted to wait and see what everyone was going to say about them and how they, because just looking at them online, they don't excite me. Like, it doesn't even say draft on it, does it?
No. Well, it's got
on
a
the
draft
side.
pin.
No,
so
on
like
the side.
This one, Yeah. No, on the side it's got like
Well, we
the
can't see that.
N1.
It's off camera.
It's got the New Era.
Yeah, so that's a mega fail. That New Era should have their logo on the back, and they should say draft, 2026 Pittsburgh or something. But a pin doesn't excite me. Like, you can get a pin anywhere.
Yeah.
Pins are $10, $15.
Yeah, just that pin. But that shiny silver around the edge is just awesome to me. And I wish on the bottom of the bill, I wish this was.
Well, yeah, show us what's underneath, because there's something special underneath too.
Yeah, so it's got motors and gears and stuff.
Yeah,
on the inside.
Yeah, the 5950 is probably the best hat out there, man. They got a nice shiny logo on the back too.
Yeah.
All right,
so
it'll be worth $55, and then I'll have to give one away too.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I do like, this is probably I would change a few things, but this is probably my new favorite Lions hat, like fit wise. God, they both fit identical.
Well, maybe you got the good run, because I've returned hats every single year.
Exactly.
Every single year.
You'll order 2 of each color of the exact same hat, and they both fit completely
Way different. I'll never understand it, man. You think it would be pretty simple by now. Like, that's what they do. And like, hats shouldn't change. Like, you're using the same style of fabric and everything else. I wish they had stiffer bills. Does that one have a stiffer bill?
Yeah, and it came pre-bent, so it wasn't just flat.
Yeah,
it came pre-bent, because I always bend my bills, and it comes pre-bent and everything. It even has a sticker on it that says pre-bent bill.
Well, they may bend it a certain way that I don't like, though. See, I used to wear them flat. So when I used to initially get hats, I would wear them flat and forward, and then they changed it to this stupid high crown. And it just makes it look terrible. Like, I can't even wear a hat forward anymore, because I can't wear sunglasses with it.
You'll like these.
It looks terrible.
It's not the big A-frame like last. I wish I had last year's. Oh, it's inside. But last year's draft hat's the big tall A-frame, so it sticks way up off your head. These are like, I don't know. They're normal. This is really nice fitting hats.
All right, let's get off and running, man. Let's get off and running. I think I want to start with Kirk Cousins here, because last night I did this video, which I don't know, man. I started thinking, after we got off yesterday morning, I started thinking, like, this one. I said that Kirk Cousins was going to go to Vegas 2 months ago. I said that was going to be the perfect landing spot for him. Especially if they were going to bring in somebody like Mendoza to help mentor. But I want to say that Kirk Cousins is on record 3, 4, 5 seasons ago saying that he doesn't think that his job is to mentor quarterbacks underneath him. Yeah, I'm almost positive, outside of Aaron Rodgers, he said that. Almost positive. So maybe his tune has changed. I mean, my tune would change for $20 million. Or even $1 million, hell, even $500K, my tune would change. So I guess in this case, the theory is he's brought in to mentor Mendoza. And then on the other side of that, the Raiders have come out and said through their coach during the league meetings that they don't see where Mendoza needs to start his rookie year. And they want him to sit, and get as much time as possible. So it sounds like Kirk Cousins has the full opportunity here to start and be the starter for year one if they still draft Mendoza. I don't know if Mendoza's still on the table. I mean, maybe I'm the only one that's crazy enough to say that. I'm okay with that. And the reason why I'm okay with that is because if I was the Raiders, I wouldn't be drafting Mendoza. I would not. I would draft Ty Simpson later, and stick
who would
with.
Who would you take number 1 overall if you were the Raiders?
Nobody. I wouldn't.
There's nobody worth that first round pick.
Well, yeah, there is, but I given the situation, let me get to my thought. Right, you save that question for a minute. The reason why. Let me back up. Let me look this up here. What did Kubiak say about Mendoza starting year one? He said ideally you don't want him to start from day one, but that's a perfect world. Sometimes they have to start from day one. Well, now if they do bring in Mendoza, they don't have to start him from day one. And I think that if we've learned anything from the Packers and other teams, the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, even Jared Goff in L.A., which I'll get to a sidebar in a minute on that whole deal. The thing is, if you sit your quarterback, and this is a league that they're not doing that anymore because they want to win now. Like, they're under so much pressure that they have to win now. These coaches have a short leash. Sometimes even 1 year. If you believe that the Raiders are in win now mode right now, I think that the Raiders fan base would be crazy to think that. But then again, if you look at all the moves that they made, they're starting with a pretty damn good roster that they've assembled not only through the draft but also through free agency this year, and they are in a unique position. But can Mendoza come in and light the fire and help the Raiders win now? I don't see it. And I know there was a lot of stuff flying around online, on social media about Mendoza's pro day saying, "Oh, look at this beautiful balls he's throwing," right? It's indoors. They're rehearsed, and he's lobbing the football. You know what I didn't see? I didn't see any darts coming off that dude's arm. I didn't see any 30-yard lasers coming off that dude's arm. I saw floaters. So while everyone is paying attention with their eyes in the sky to these floaters, almost any quarterback can do that. A lot of I could go lob a football and get it downfield. I'm 45 years old. But to tell me that's what you want out of a quarterback is to sit back and lob them, how often does that happen in a game today? Very rare do you see quarterbacks just dropping back and chucking the duck downfield. That's what explosives are for. That's why it's so hard to get explosives. But where do you get the explosives is when you have an arm that can paint it, on a rope 20, 25 yards downfield. I don't see that arm from Mendoza. And I did not see it in his pro day video. So for that reason, I'm out. I wouldn't draft Mendoza. And Ty Simpson has a better arm, but you can get him later on. So if I'm the Raiders, Eric, I'll ask you before I give you my whole story. If I'm the Raiders, I'll ask you, would you trade the number 1 pick? Would you draft Mendoza because he, according to the consensus, is the number 1 overall quarterback? Mm-hmm. How would you approach the number 1 pick now that you brought in Kirk Cousins?
So if this was the Lions instead of the
No. If you're the Raiders, don't look at it from the Lions' perspective. You have to be the Raiders and say,
yeah, but I have to make the Raiders my team for a minute here.
It's okay. That's what we do.
Yeah. I don't know as I'm completely 100% sold on Mendoza, but I don't know who I would take number 1 overall, or if I would trade and what am I getting in this trade. It would all depend on what I got in the trade. Am I moving back 2 spots, 3 spots, 5 spots, 17 spots? Where am I moving back to and what's being offered to me first? Have to be a heck of a haul.
Which it would be. So look at it from the perspective of this. When Jared Goff was drafted by the Rams, they traded from 15 to number 1 with the Tennessee Titans. Mm-hmm. They traded, they did a pick swap. It was 2016's draft, so they did a pick swap of first-round picks. And then the Rams gave them their 2 second-round picks. I think it was 43 and 45 of 2016. They also kicked in a 3rd-round pick in 2016, and then a 1st and a 3rd in 2017. So 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 4 picks added to that year's draft. So if that is the closest that I could find to any sort of a deal, they got that is close to where the Lions are picking at 17 to go from 15, 17 to 1. It's 2, 2, 2, and 2. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds back then. However, each draft is different. If you have a quarterback loaded class, it is a lot more expensive to move up, right? You're going to get a much bigger haul trading back because someone's going to want that quarterback. This is a weak class. if somebody really wants Mendoza and you're moving, more than 12 or 14 picks, up, it's going to cost a ton. Now, if you're moving from 5 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, yeah, it's going to be a pick swap in probably a second and a third, or a pick swap in next year's first and a second, and possibly a third. It's still going to cost you some. It's still going to cost you some, some draft cap. So now that you understand that, if you were to get, let's just say, the pick swap, an extra first, a second, and 2/3, which would be one pick less than the Rams trade, then what are you thinking?
So I just got a call from the New York Jets.
Yeah, well, that's only number 2.
No. So they're not offering me number 2.
16?
They're offering me number 16.
Okay.
So one more spot. So they're going to throw in an extra 4th rounder in 2 years on top of everything that you just listed. So I'm going to take.
So say that one more time. What did they offer?
So they're going to offer me an extra 4th, but not next year, 2 years from now. And
so a 2028 4th.
Yeah, plus everything else you said.
Hold on, a 2026 first.
Yep.
Number 16.
Yep.
And then what else?
And then everything else you listed.
That's a ton.
Yeah. But they want me to move all the way back to 16.
Okay, so you want a 2027 first.
Yep.
2026 first pick swap, a 2028 4th.
Yep.
And then you want a 2026 second, a 2027 second, a 2026 third.
You got it.
And a 2027 third?
Yep.
Yeah, that'll never happen. Wishful thinking there.
I want the same trade.
Yeah,
it's already happened in the past for a number 1 quarterback.
See, and in this draft, there's no way that would happen.
Then I'm going to stick and pick.
I wouldn't. You know why? Because if the Jets offered me 16 and they gave me this year's first at 16, next year's first, and they kicked in a second this year, a 4th this year. So a second, a first, and a 4th this year, and a first and a third next year. So that's 2 picks less than what you offered. At 16, you're getting Ty Simpson.
Yep.
So you just added a first, a third, a second, and a 4th, and you still got a quarterback, in my opinion, that is near as good as what Mendoza is. He may not be as good of a processor. He may not have the height, but he's still in that same range of a quarterback. What have I always said about quarterbacks in the first round? Maybe you probably forget, but even when I was talking about the Caleb Williams draft, I said pick one. Like, I would rather trade out of number 1, and if there's 5 quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round, probably in the top 10 or 15 picks, then I'm going to trade and try to stay within the top 5, top 4, and I'm just going to say whatever lands to me, lands to me. I'm going to take the best one that's available, and the reason why is there is such a disparity between a first-round quarterback actually being good and then a first-round quarterback being a bust.
Yeah.
Like, it's one or the other. Like, you either got a career backup or you got a really good quarterback, and even then it takes 2.5, 3 seasons most of the time for these quarterbacks to even become halfway decent or even make it to the playoffs. Here's the difference. Yeah. You continue on your thought. I'm going to take care of my dog. So walk it out. I guess kind of walk out the trade. If you did that trade at 16, then what would you do?
Yeah, if they're offering a boatload, you have to take it. It's just this year, I don't know if any teams would. And I think probably the Jets would be the only team that would be wanting to do something like that so they could take the top 2 prospects in the draft. But then who do they take? I mean, let's see here. I'm going to open, if I knew how to open stuff. Oh, here it is. Bookmarks. There we go. Oh, no, that's not it. I am horrible with computers, by the way. Absolutely horrible. But if I'm the Jets, you could pick number 1 and number 2 in this draft. You could take Mendoza. You could take your highly prized defensive player that you want. You have your offensive and defensive players. You're set for a while. And listen, our former defensive coordinator is now head coach of Aaron Glenn, the head coach of the Jets. And he doesn't want to be on the hot seat. He needs to make some moves to get some people in. I don't think he can wait for next year's quarterback class to see if they get the number one pick next year, because he may not survive as a head coach until next year if they are in line for the number one pick next year.
Who's that?
Aaron Glenn. Would you agree with that? If, because next year's supposed to be this quarterback heavy, super awesome. There's going to be a bona fide number one.
It is a quarterback heavy class. Yes.
Yeah, and there's going to be a bona fide number one that everybody's going to want next year. It's going to be way more expensive to move up to try to get that number one guy next year. And yep. I don't believe if Aaron Glenn has a bad season this year and they do hold the number one pick, I don't believe he makes it. I don't think I think they go for a coaching change.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to have the number one pick. I think that the Jets are going to compete at a very high level, but to kind of finish talking about this trade scenario here with the Vegas Raiders number one pick and why I think that there's some consideration is exactly that. Next year's, to what you just said, exactly the point that I've been trying to drive home here is next year's class is so much better. You now have a bridge quarterback for a season. I don't care who else you bring in. I don't even know who's on their roster behind Cousins.
Aiden Connolly.
Aiden Connolly? O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah.
He's a decent quarterback. So they have two quarterbacks that they can survive with between now and next year. And then when you look at what they brought in this season, Tyler Linderbaum, Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, all on 3-year deals. Jalen Naylor, 3-year deal. Eric Stokes, 3-year deal. Malcolm Kuntz on a 1-year deal. Spencer Burford, Derek Young, Segun Olubi on 1-year deals, and Connor Hayward, the tight end, on a 2-year deal. Kirk Cousins, 5-year deal. I don't know how they're getting a 5-year deal out of this, but it's been reported by Spotrac that this deal has a total guarantee in year one, total guarantee total of 11.3, an AAV of 34.4, a total value of 172 million. Now, a lot of people are saying this is just a 1-year deal. Well, there's more to that. There's more. The way that this deal is worked out is, it's essentially a 1-year deal if they decide not to pick him up for next year. But if they pick him up for next year, they have another 2 years of control. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's been in the league a long time. I get he's a little bit older, but you can't tell me that Kirk Cousins isn't going to be a better quarterback than Fernando Mendoza. So you have a quarterback that you can get to next year with. You can still go win 9 or 10 games this year potentially with that roster that you just added. When I look at that, I see this is a 3-year build out. You put everybody under a 3-year contract that you want to keep on this team and continue building. So when I see that, I'm saying, if they're allowing themselves 3 years, why wouldn't they allow themselves just 1 more year to get the right quarterback? Why would you take and risk a first-round pick on just the best quarterback in the class, but he's a second-tier athlete? Like, he's not... just look around what everyone is saying now. Like, okay, we're going to put Mendoza there just because. That's zero confidence to me. You're not putting Mendoza at number 1 because he's this great quarterback. He's just the best quarterback available. And so if you're talking BPA and you need a quarterback, well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? For me, I see a bigger need here, and that is they want those Crosby picks back, right? They had this plan. They were dumping Crosby. They were getting 2 first-round picks. They had this big plan to reduce their cap and to go out and buy all these free agents and then have 4 first-round draft picks over the next 2 seasons. which would have given them plenty of ammo in next year's draft to get another quarterback if they took Fernando Mendoza and he didn't work out. Well, they don't have that luxury now unless they trade Crosby by the draft, which, as I've been on record saying, if Crosby was going to be traded, it would be right around the draft or during the draft when he's actually healthy. We don't know what else is in the medical report. So I'm looking at it from that lens, Eric, that they want those first-round picks back. How are you going to get them without trading Crosby now? Maybe now you're looking at this from the standpoint like, okay, I can drop back. I can still get a good quarterback in this draft, and I still have my mentor, I guess, if you're going to call him, and Kirk Cousins, who can start and help me win some games. Who wants number one? And what are you willing to give me for it? I mean, the bar to entry is 2 firsts and 2 seconds. I don't care where you're picking. If it's inside the top 5, it may not be 2 firsts and 2 seconds. Maybe it's 2 firsts and a second and a fourth, or two firsts, a second, and a third. But at a minimum, anything outside the top 10, you're probably looking at 5 premium draft picks. And then even then, if you look at the draft order, what teams make the most sense to be able to make this trade? Well, I would look at all the teams that have multiple draft picks in the first round. Who are those teams? Do you know them off the top of your head?
The Rams, the Chiefs, the Jets,
Browns,
the Browns,
Dolphins, Cowboys.
Oh, the Dolphins have 2?
I think so. Yeah,
let me look.
Almost positive. I think it's the Jets, the Browns, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Rams. 5 teams, which is crazy. When's the last time we've seen 5 teams have 2 first-round picks? That's just nuts to me. That means 27 teams are not getting a first-round pick in this year's draft. And those are the teams that more than likely mortgage their future, and they're going to be up Schitt's Creek without any paddles. But I'm pretty positive it's those 5 teams. So out of those 5 teams, which one needs a quarterback the most?
Well, the Chiefs, they don't really need a quarterback.
Not necessarily.
Browns don't need a quarterback.
The Jets have Geno, but do they need a future quarterback? They do. Yeah. And picking at number 2, they're not going to get Mendoza if the Raiders stick and pick, but at 16, they'll probably end up with Ty Simpson if that's the direction they want to go. I wouldn't. I would be waiting until next year.
But Aaron Glenn might not have the luxury of waiting for next year.
Well, even if you bring in a rookie, and this is the thing that I hate about NFL organizations, like, you know that your roster is not great. You know that you need a quarterback, and you know that there's not many available. So you have to give the guy some time. Either you got to give him the opportunity to move up and get the quarterback that he wants, which means if I need to go from 2 to 1, you make it happen. If they were to offer 16 and 2 to move up to number 1 and then maybe a second-round pick next year, that would be a done deal. The Raiders would do that in a heartbeat. You're moving back 1 pick and you gain an extra first and a second. I don't see how they could turn that down.
Yeah,
I really don't. Especially if you're not sold on Mendoza, because you could still end up getting. You get 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. What does that do for your roster? Like, you get a premier safety if you want one. You'll get a premier wide receiver if you want one. You could get a premier offensive lineman, a defensive tackle. I mean, all of those options are on the table. So I look at this from the perspective that they lost the Crosby picks. This is a way to get them back. What teams make the most sense? Who really needs a quarterback in this draft that have the draft capital to do it? I would start with those 5 teams, and then I threw the Lions into the bucket. Why did I do that? Well, I did that because I want fans to realize how nutty this sounds. I wanted fans to push back at me in that video and say, you are out of your effing mind. Because
detector test determined that was a lie.
Yeah. And it's...
You sound insane.
Do
you realize that?
I know I do. But I want to sound just as insane as you do, not you, Eric, the audience, sure, when you want Brad Holmes to F them picks and make a trade for an edge and spend another $40 million. Because you sound
insane. Do you realize that?
It's not possible. There's no way that the Lions are going to give up 5 or 6 picks to move up to the number 1 pick. Now, to a lesser degree, could they move up to the number 5, 6, or 7? That's a little bit more feasible. I still don't like it because right now we are in a bad situation in this draft. If we stick and pick at 17 and 50 and 118, this is not going to be a good draft. Is that you?
Oh,
Did Trey
no.
try to initiate sexual contact?
What in the
with you
world is
What
that?
the heck is that?
on the night
I ain't
of
got
Daisy
that
and
on.
Trey's wedding? You said yes, that he tried to.
Got some political comment going on.
No, it's what's his name? It's Maury Povich.
Oh, yeah.
It must have downloaded the wrong one. It must have downloaded the whole thing. It did. It downloaded the whole thing. Yeah, how the dude was cheating on his wife and all that good stuff. That's right. That's where I got it from. Maury Povich. That is a lie. Here you go.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
You got to clip the audio. That's what it is.
No, I just need to delete that one. It downloaded the whole thing. Wasn't supposed to. I probably did it. But anyway, you get where I'm going at with this.
And if you look at the 5 teams that have multiple picks, you got the New York Jets. They could use a quarterback. Cleveland Brown, I think they're set at quarterback. Kansas City Chiefs,
at least for another year.
Kansas City Chiefs, they're probably set. Dallas Cowboys, they're probably set with Dak Prescott. But the Miami Dolphins at 11, they have a number 11 and number 30. Could they package 11 and 30 this year to move up to number 1, plus next year's second to move all the way up to number 1?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's going to be more than that, right? If you're going from 11 to 1, it's 11, and maybe it's next year's 1, because if you're looking at the Dolphins, you're probably saying they're not going to be a good team. They're probably going to be picking top 10, top 15 again for sure next year. So we know that next year's pick is going to be good, and that'll give us an opportunity to package our picks if we need to move up. But yeah, if they did dish out 30 and 11 to move up to number 1, and then it would probably cost them a 2 and a 3, the following season, that would probably be about it. I think that's a good haul. I mean, if you move back to 11, you could still get Ty Simpson, and then now you've added another pick in the first round that you can get another premier player. So I think it makes a lot of sense to move off of 1. The other side of this is, does stacking picks really work? Has it ever really worked? Stacking a bunch of picks. And when I look at the Rams, if I go back and look at the Rams trade, which, by the way, let me divert for just a moment here. It's a little sidebar and Jared Goff.
There you go.
Think about this. We got Jared Goff and 2 first-round picks by trading Matthew Stafford to the Rams. Just 5 seasons before that, the Rams traded 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds to go up and get Jared Goff. Jared Goff cost the Rams 4 first-round picks, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds, and a boatload of money.
Just go back and look at all of those 6 or 7 picks and see if any of them have turned out to be all pros or pro bowlers.
I'm sorry, who?
All the picks that were traded away, who they actually took with those picks, those other teams, and if any of them ended up turning out to be pro bowlers or all pros.
Only one that I know of, and that would have been Derrick Henry. And so when you look at who was acquired, I want to say they might have traded some of those picks away again, but they definitely brought in Derrick Henry.
He ended up being okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. I could probably look it up real quick.
Could you imagine a backfield with Derrick Henry and Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, I mean that would be phenomenal. I don't know about now. I mean, Henry's not the same Henry he was. I mean, he's still a load, but so they ended up getting here's who the Titans got. They got Jack Conklin, offensive tackle, first round. Kevin Dodd, I don't even know who he is. Austin Johnson, second round. Derrick Henry, second round. Corey Davis, the receiver, first round. And Jonnu Smith, third round. That's who they got with all those picks.
Wow.
Let me take that a little bit further.
ARF, but refresh my memory. We got Stafford just by virtue of sucking, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We certainly did.
Pick. Number 1 overall. That was the consolation prize for going 0-16 in 2008.
So when you look at the trade for Jared Goff and what the Titans were receiving or what they received, they ended up with 2 really good players out of that. Derrick Henry, obviously 4-time Pro Bowler, all pro player, second and first team. And then Jack Conklin, no Pro Bowl, but 2 times first team All Pro. So they got 2 really good players by trading for all those picks. I don't know how you fumble the bag like that. But even while, players like Jonnu Smith, maybe they weren't very highly productive as a starter. He's been a significant free agent, I guess, at times, pick up and it has helped some teams. But Corey Davis was a solid starter. He had a breakout in 2020, but then he never reached the pinnacle, Austin Johnson was a defensive tackle, and Kevin Dodd, the linebacker. Both were just rotational depth players, and I believe both of them were second-round picks. So that's was my second half to that. Does stacking picks really help? Can you really do a lot? I think with Brad Holmes, you can. Not every GM, I think, has the wherewithal to utilize those picks in a way that you find the right players. So to wrap this whole thing up in a tight bow, the Vegas Raiders have brought in high caliber football players. They've signed the majority of them to 3-year deals, the free agents. That tells me that they want or are invested into a 3-year rebuild. And by the 3rd year, they want to be winning a lot of football games. And if that's your plan, Mendoza's not the answer. Now, he could be a functional starter, right? He may put up some weird stats, some good stats. But over the test of time, is he going to be that starting quarterback that can take you the distance? And for right now, I don't think he is. But like everybody else, they're just throwing darts. You really don't know. The NFL is a different animal. I see one season that he did well with Indiana. One. Prior to that at Cal, he was not a good quarterback. So you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. I would try to get out of that first pick. And no, I don't want the Lions to move up to do it. Any of your final thoughts on that?
The whole trade thing, I don't know. I really truly think they're just going to stick and pick. They want Mendoza. That's their guy. I do have a little bit of information about Kirk Cousins and his contract, though. So Kirk Cousins signed a new $20 million fully guaranteed contract for 2026. Okay, and this is according to Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. Of the salary this season, 1.3 million of it will be paid by Las Vegas. So Vegas is getting him on the cheap this year. And the remainder of 2026 will be paid by the Atlanta Falcons, with another 10 million fully guaranteed, due on the 3rd day of the new league year in 2027. And then the Raiders also have a 2-year, $80 million option for the 2027 and 2028 seasons, which is unlikely to be picked up by the team. But the deal includes 2 void years for 2029 and 2030 for salary cap purposes. So why do you think they would do that? Have him sign a contract with 2 $80 million years in it that's just easily voidable. What is the whole point of doing that? That's the point, the part I don't understand of this whole contract of Kirk Cousins.
Roster gymnastics or cap gymnastics, man. It's I think that they're trying to give him an opportunity with a little bit of security, and then at the same time, they're trying to navigate their cap. If we take a look at his contract here by Spotrac, kind of speaks to the same thing. These are estimates right now. So he's signed through 2030. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2031. So that's a 5-year deal. So I don't understand what's being reported out there, because I see a 5-year, $172 million contract right here up top. 5 years, $172 million. His AAV is 34.4, no signing bonus. He only has a 11.3 guaranteed at sign, and he's fully unrestricted free agent in 2031. However, to your point, the $11.3 million is guaranteed for 2026 and 2027 roster bonus. The 2027 roster bonus, the $10 million, is guaranteed on the third league day of 2027, to what you just said. And then the $80 million of future salary becomes fully guaranteed on the fifth league day of 2027. They call that, Spotrac calls that the poison pill. So yeah, I mean, it's more than just a 1-year deal. And so that's why, Eric, when I did this video yesterday, I wish I would have brought this into the video. I totally forgot.
Yeah.
I was off my rocker yesterday, man. I was not. I was just not with it. Whoops. I was not with it all. I was struggling with all this crap going on with these updates. So I wish I would have brought that in to show everybody, because I was trying to explain that this is more than 1 year. Like, there's the potential that he could be there for multiple years to finish out his career in the NFL. Yeah. And that's what got me thinking. I happened to look at his deal and I'm like, that doesn't speak Mendoza to me. And if it does, man, they're really putting some money into this guy if he sticks around. Now, to your point, unlikely to pick it up. What if they do bring in Mendoza? And what if Mendoza does shit the bed? What are you going to do then? You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Then you're in that Penix Cousins deal again.
Yeah.
Except for this time, you can cut bait after 1 year and you're pretty much scot-free.
Yeah. All right. Good conversation there for the first 40 minutes, all about Kirk Cousins, Vegas Raiders, the number 1 pick. I'd like to know in the comments below, obviously in the chat, you guys have been talking about it. Would you want your Detroit Lions to move up to the number 1 pick? And if so, what are you willing to give up? I will tell you right now, the comments in the video have been a pretty stark, hell no. Like, no way. There's no way we're going to give up that many picks. And so then I would challenge those that are saying not to do it. Are you also in the same boat that the Lions need to spend $40 million opposite of Aiden? Because if that's the case, I don't understand you then. Because you can't do one without the other. And free agent pickups don't always work out, and draft picks don't always work out.
Yeah.
It's kind of a roll of the dice either way.
Art Vandelay's got a good one in the chat there. He says the Raiders' last number 1 overall pick was Jamarcus Russell. So they might pause on that pick.
Oh my God. He was so good in college, not just one season. I think it was at least 2. Way back then, he might have only played 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Because the rules, I believe, were different as to when you could come into the league. But now, you're starting to see things with these players too. Like, they're getting some money, and that's why players are going to be a little bit older entering the draft, for the foreseeable future. There's going to be less 21-year-olds. I think the average age is probably going to push closer to 23, and that's because of NIL. And if you have a young child right now that's going through high school and thinking about their future and what they want to do, man, steer them towards, if they love sports, maybe they're not the best athlete, but they love sports. Look, get into the NIL game. Get them into some financial education and get them into the NIL game, because there's going to be a ton of money as soon as this hits high school, because it's coming. I give it another 10 years. In high school is probably going to have NIL, and I would say that a lot of Texas teams, Florida teams, California, New York, Chicago, the bigger cities, the bigger states, the bigger football towns, Oklahoma, that's where you're going to see a lot of big NIL deals for some of the big, like College Station type. But man, push them towards that. There's a lot of money to be made, and you can still be part of the game. Anyway, let's move on to the next subject, and we'll do that right when we get back. Take a quick break. See you here in just a few seconds. Gotta find the break. Thanks, OBS, for screwing me all up. Oh, where is it? No, whatever. Go to this one.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Yeah, OBS, that was a lie.
That's a big time play.
All right, Eric, it's that time of year again, man. NFL rule changes. So Phoenix, Arizona was the home of this year's NFL owners meeting. I don't know if I told you this the other day, but we could have been out there, and I still kicking myself that I didn't even think about it.
We could have went and took a little vacation.
Yeah, I watched a couple of videos from some of the other content creators that were actually out there. And look, great work by these guys. They had donkeys delivering foods and drinks at their big party. They got a big party that they do during one of the evenings, and yeah, fun stuff, man. I would have loved to have been out there. I don't know if I have a beach body right now, but laying by the pool in Phoenix, Arizona, getting some sun. Oh, we could have needed it. We definitely needed it. Next year, depending on where they're at, it's going to be on the list. I'm going to have to make it a vacation, and we're just going to have to go. So we're planning on it for this time next year, last week of March. We'll be going somewhere. I'd probably rather do that than the draft, honestly. So we are I submitted for the draft. I'm not sure if we're going to go, but we'll see. So Phoenix, multiple rule changes proposed. And so far, the NFL owners approved 2 significant changes to the league's replay review system on Tuesday. One that is contingent on the NFL using replacement officials this season, and one that will take effect whether or not there is an officiating work stoppage. The NFL and the NFL Referees Association broke off collective bargaining last week. The May 31 date, that is the expiration date of their contract. So they broke off, apparently, talks. Like, there's some contention here. The league has already begun collecting names of college officials who could serve as replacements during the preseason and possibly the regular season if needed. I'm going to stop there. Does this help or hurt the Detroit Lions?
It hurts them. It hurts every team. Hurts the NFL as a product overall. If we remember the last time that we had replacement refs, it was an absolute, utter disappointment for everyone involved. The refs that were involved were horrible. They didn't know what they were doing, and there were so many bad calls in so many games. And what was it, 6 or 8 games we had them, and then the regular refs came back and things went back to normal.
But it's a question for, I'm asking intentionally because, there's the ref conversation that's always been involved with Detroit Lions fans. And so when I think about the possibility of having temporary refs, okay, I'm not worried as much about the temporary refs. I don't think it can be much worse than it has been The issue that I have is this.
Maybe they won't know the obscure rule that Jared Goff can't catch a touchdown.
Yeah, maybe. But this is why the thing that bothers me is this. The first set of Tuesday's approved changes will create a massive expansion of authority for staffers in the league's officiating command center in New York City, allowing them to consult with the on-field referee on a wide variety of called and uncalled penalties and other administrative procedures. I think we all understand what happened last year, that the call most likely came from New York when this was the Jared Goff call, right? So Jared Goff scores.
Which one?
Well, the one he's Steelers, the one that he scored, right? And where the ball was flipped to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown almost scored or whatever. Remember how they called him that they said that he wasn't set, and then they said, well, he was set, but he wasn't allowed to be set. But if he was set, then he could only do this, and then he can't do that. He can't run towards the line of scrimmage. I did a whole video on it, and it went bonkers. I think it's still going crazy. But the point is, that call came from New York, and they didn't outright say that, but there was a few people that slipped up and said that the call came from New York. Remember, Dan Campbell said he was told the call came from New York. So where I have heartburn here is that if the NFL doesn't want the Lions to win, well, now they have, tinfoil hat Friday. If they now have a way to get involved in the game, the term here that I'm most worried about is uncalled penalties. So who's going to be sitting back in New York watching the Lions and whoever, and they'll say, "Oh, there was a holding call there. They didn't call it. We got to call down and tell them they got to rewind that. They got to run that again." Aiden had a sack, but there was a holding call downfield. Oh, Jared Goff threw a 50-yard touchdown to J-Mo. There was a holding call in Penei Sewell. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of stuff I think that they needed to have a limited, narrow scope. And this is way too broad. I have not seen the definition of this yet that defines what they can and cannot call that was uncalled. So I don't like the fact that now you have, middling here going on with the New York office that has never been in our favor, ever. With any situation, it seems like it's never been in our favor. So what do you think about the fact now that I think the door is going to be wide open, Eric? I think that this is just a way that the NFL is just going to get themselves involved, that New York's going to get involved in these games now, and it's not going to be just this year. Next year, I know there's an expiration date on it, but next year at the league meetings, they're going to say, you know what, we should do this all the time. We should just have people in New York just officiating all these games. I don't like it.
Well, eventually it's probably going to be an AI program that does all the officiating.
And that's even worse.
It's going to have all these cameras that watch every single play. And if it believes that you were holding or doing this or that, it'll bring it to someone's attention. They look at it and go, oh, yeah, that is holding. And that's where the flag comes from.
It's never helped us. I mean, fans always think that Aiden is held. And I would say that there's a lot of times that he is, but you really have to look at where the offensive, lineman's hands are. Are they outside the shoulders? They outside the breastplate for how long? And look, I'll never agree that when Aiden gets clotheslined, that's a fair play. I don't think it's a legal play, and it happens quite a bit. And it's never called. I would love to see some of those flags now. If this is legit going to happen because we don't have refs, then I want to see where some of those calls happen in our favor. Now, I do got to be clear that this only happens if we don't have refs. So if we don't have refs, they're going to be able to do this. What I would like to see, though, is, and Eric, you and I both have been adamant about this, like, why can't you just adopt the UFL?
I know.
Just the way that they do it, make it very transparent for everybody. And that way, when New York does call down, we get to hear what they're talking about. I think that would reduce the animosity towards the NFL by the fan base. And I think that it would help to repair and rebuild the trust. And if the NFL doesn't consider that important, then I'm sorry. I'm going to have to lean towards the other direction that tells me they don't want it fair. That they do want to control things. And maybe they do have a narrative in mind. So it is what it is. Any feelings, comments on that?
Yeah. I got a little sidebar. Speaking of the UFL, week 1 was great. I watched all 4 games. There's a game on tonight, 8:00. It's the Columbus Aviators versus the Defenders, the DC Defenders. So that's on at 8:00 tonight on Fox. There's a little plug for the UFL. This whole situation to me, with sports betting and everything else, and with our prior, holy moly, a whole bunch of snow just fell off my roof. Scared the crap out of me. Man, on a metal roof, it's really loud.
Oh, I
Sounds
heard
like
it.
a gun going off.
I heard it.
But the last time we had these refs, it cost us games. It literally did. It was awful. There was just such awful calls, and it was the product on the field was hard to watch. And listen, these refs, they've been trying since 2024 to negotiate a new CBA. All right. The biggest sticking points for these guys and the whole heart of these deliberations is their salary. The refs, they reportedly want an annual increase of 10% per year for the next 6 years, while the league has only offered 6.45%. And as well as the length of the off-season dead period and additional performance standards. And to the last point, the league would reportedly like to increase the probationary period for new officials from 3 years to 5 years. The union does not want that.
This is the NFL.
Yep, for the NFL. And they would like to assign more postseason games based on performance rather than seniority, which is how such appointments are typically made now.
That I think should happen. Like,
yes,
it's based on your performance, right? There should be no favoritism
but it's
here.
not. It goes by senior. It goes by seniority right now, first, and then by how well you've performed throughout the year, which I always thought was the other way around.
So according to Rick McKay, Rick McKay, excuse me, he's the co-chairman of the NFL's competition committee. He said that the league would reallocate existing gameplay employees to ensure that appropriate staffing levels are there to cover each game if a work stoppage does activate the rules changes. So they're going to have to hire more people, or they're going to have to shift, where some of these people are, these employees are. I guess that's another thing I didn't even think about. Like, if you need to now ref every game from a camera system, how many people is that going to take when you have 5 or 6 games on at a time, or whatever it is, and you have, I don't know how many cameras, but you need at least one person watching each camera, you would think. You can't watch multiple cameras at the same time. That's damn near impossible. So the NFL owners are alarmed about the state of the negotiations. The sources over the weekend had said that the NFL executive vice president, Jeff Miller, said that Tuesday that the owners are insistent upon a new CBA that provides avenues to improve the state of NFL officiating. And
I agree.
I agree too, but Roger Goodell's come out and said multiple times how great of a job that they've been doing. He says it every year at these, at the combine, and yeah, of course. But I think that the league, the franchises, they want fair officiating. They want good officiating. It's not, they don't want to gain an edge. They just don't want somebody else to gain an edge. So do it right. And so Miller said that, quote, that's where we are in these negotiations, and that's exactly where we're going to stay, being insistent upon providing avenues to improve the state of the NFL officiating. So according to the verbiage in the new rules, staff members in New York could alert a replacement referee if they see clear and obvious evidence of an uncalled foul for roughing the passer intentional grounding, or an act that would normally lead to disqualification. So if they have honed this in, remember earlier I was saying I haven't seen the verbiage yet.
Yeah,
This is a smattering of it. It's not all of it. But if they're honing this in, right, drilling it down to just a few things, that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. And again, those would be clear and obvious evidence of an uncalled foul for roughing the passer, intentional grounding, or an act that would normally lead to disqualification, such as DK Metcalf, or apparently Brian Branch, hitting was that Jordan Love? Those types of things. Now, those staff members would also be permitted to alert replacement referees that a flag shouldn't have been thrown if, again, there is clear and obvious video evidence that, quote, at least one element of the foul called is not present, according to the verbiage. I need to get my hands on the verbiage. I'll work on that today. Goes in to say that fouls eligible for this alert include, and this is where it gets muddy, twisting, pulling, or turning the face mask, roughing the passer, intentional grounding, horse collar tackles, illegal contact, pass interference.
Oh, that's the one.
And disqualification. So I have a problem with the face mask thing. So it's pulling and turning the face mask. So you can lay your hand on a face mask. Isn't that illegal, hands to the face?
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't put that in the rule. They only put, according to this, twisting, pulling, or turning the face mask. They didn't say hands to the face. So that's a problem for me. Like, you can't have one and not the other, right?
Yeah.
And then the pass interference, man, that's a big one.
Pass interference is so subjective.
But again, hold on. Before you say that, let me make sure we're clear. It's stating that it has to be clear and obvious that all elements of the foul that was called, that all of them are present. So that means with pass interference that it has to be clear and obvious that every action that was taken on the foul or to commit the foul, that they were all present when the flag was thrown. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, now go ahead.
Yeah, but even if you take two teams like, let's say the teams that were in the Super Bowl, and I'm not rooting for one, I'm not rooting for the other, I'm just watching a good game, right? Just watching the Super Bowl. And the quarterback for the Patriots drops back, throws the ball, and they call what they think is pass interference down to the 1 yard line for a 49-yard penalty. I have always hated the 49-yard penalty on a play that sometimes is very subjective. Maybe they got their feet tangled, maybe they didn't. And you hardly ever see when pass interference is called that they pick up the flag. I really think that pass interference needs to be changed, something like college where it's either a 10 or a 15-yard penalty. I know there's arguments against that, but it just gives the offense such a huge advantage anytime you get near the 50-yard line to throw the bomb against a defense, and that defensive player touches your guy whatsoever, and now you're going to have refs that can, if it wasn't called on the field, now they can call it if they believe it was obvious and the refs missed it on the field. Because you know that if you take yourself out of the game being a fan for either team, you can watch it unbiased and be like, okay, yeah, that was pass interference, or that wasn't pass interference. And half the time the refs and upstairs get it wrong, even though you have nothing, you have no skin in the game on that play or in that game. So to me, that one, to have them be able to do that for pass interference, some people are going to like it, but for me, that's the one I'm not going to like.
That's the one that gives me the most concern.
Yeah, that could be a 49-yard penalty down to the half-yard line.
Yeah, it could be. Big shout out to Mike P, man. Mike P dropped $20 in the super chat. Says, how many are like me in counting on Brad Holmes to trade down and then back up in the draft this year? That is a great statement, Mike. Appreciate your big $20, man. It goes a long way to help this channel grow. Obviously, it goes a long way for Rockhound Cancer Foundation, and it goes a long way for us to be able to give back and do all the things that we're going to be doing, like we do every year for the draft. Appreciate you, man. You're an awesome person. Make sure you give Mrs. P a big hug for us this morning. So it's a great question, and we're going to get back to that in just a moment. I apologize. I missed the super chat when it came in. We'll come back to that.
We even started.
Yeah, we'll come back to that here in just a few moments. A little bit more on this. Says, in addition, in 2019, the NFL conducted a 1-year experiment that subjected pass interference to replay review. The effort bogged down amid a muddled standard for overturning an on-field decision. In Tuesday's approved rule, the competition committee limited league staff members' involvement to only circumstances where there were, quote, inadvertent tangling of the feet when both players were playing the ball or neither player was playing the ball. If I understand this, then if there was inadvertent tangling of the feet when both players are either playing or not playing the ball, then that should not be a foul. And I can't tell you how many times that a foul's been called when it seems like, their feet, just got tangled up. I don't think that a player intentionally wants to go tangle up their feet because that's how injuries happen, right? There's so much that can go on there. So I guess that's one effort. Do you
want them to be able to call this both ways, where if one was missed, they make the call, or if they made the call on the field and got it wrong, that they reverse it? Do you want it to go both ways if this goes through?
If I understand your question, it's if the penalty was not called on the field, that it can be called, and then if the penalty was called, that it can be reversed.
Yes.
I think that's the way they're trying to do this. Is that they are making sure that, if I go back to the beginning, here's what it says. If I go back to the beginning, it says, where is it? Better read this whole thing now.
Yeah, I like.
Okay, here it goes. It says, according to the verbiage in the rule, staff members in New York could alert a replacement referee if they see clear and obvious evidence of an uncalled foul for roughing the passer, intentional grounding, or an act that would normally lead to disqualification. So that's the uncalled portion. It also says that those staff members would also be permitted to alert the replacement referees that a flag shouldn't have been thrown if, again, there was clear and obvious video evidence that, quote, at least one element of the foul called is not present. So it's both ways. They can remove the foul or they can tack on a foul. Now, in addition, it goes on to say that after the 2-minute warning or in overtime, the list of called or uncalled penalties that league staff members could provide referees with would expand to include unsportsmanlike conduct based on punching or kicking at an opponent. And during kicks, the league staff members could also consult on the leverage and leaping rules.
So are they going to put a camera on every single player? A dedicated camera to every player on the field?
No, I mean, they don't need that. Well, I think what they need, quite honestly, is I think that, you see the cameras that are flying up and down, during the play.
But if you had a dedicated camera for all 22 players on the field.
Well, wearing a body cam now?
No. You just have a camera somewhere in that stadium pointed at just that player, zoomed in or whatever, on top of the normal camera views. Mm-hmm. That way, anything that's called, they can Rewind. Okay, let's go look. We have a view of every player. There's nothing that's not.
Look, I used to do very sophisticated security systems when I did the security systems for hospitals and schools and government buildings and all that. Even back then, the AI that was in cameras, the ability to do all of these cool things with cameras is significantly better today because of the AI. If you have the right sensors in the cameras, not only can you utilize one camera to get multiple images, but you probably could, and this is what I would do, is I would paint a target, around a door or an area of, a parking lot, whatever. And if someone came through that door, then that person would be tracked. It would clamp, and then that person would be tracked everywhere they go. And every camera that they went across would start picking up the tracking. So you would have this seamless stitch of watching this person go throughout a giant building. And so you would never lose, as long as you have cameras in every angle, throughout the halls and, where it could continue to track. It's a lot of money to do that. Each one of those cameras is no less than $500. And in some places, some schools, you're putting in 200 cameras or more, right? And that's a lot, but that's just inside. That doesn't even cover outside. So yeah, you can do it. And today's cameras are so much more sophisticated and so much more expensive. I'll tell you this, if they were to do something like that and they were to put in a camera system that could look at every single player on the field and have their own individual stitch, you're probably looking at, the ring that goes around the stadium with the boards, usually at the second level, the video that spins around in most states. You probably would need 100 cameras painted around that.
Yep.
And then you would need stuff up above pointing down, and then you could stitch it all together. But I would say no less than 5 million per stadium.
Yeah.
To have all of the right, and that would probably take multiple seasons to get it right. But yeah, it's a lot of labor, it's a lot of money, and cameras fail, and you're talking a lot of coding. That's why it's so expensive. You'd probably have a workforce of 50 people per stadium for a couple of months just to get it all installed and then get it all up and running. And then you'd have to get the players on the field to actually go do their thing. You know what I mean? And get, you'd probably have to start bringing in some UFL teams or something, some high school teams, whatever, and say, look, we need you to come in and do your thing. And that way you can get it right. But it can be done. It can be done. But I think that would be way overboard. Way overboard. Look, the game of football is no longer football anymore. The human element was part of it, but I think the human element was, how do I say it? The human element became a problem when betting became a problem.
Yeah.
I would say it's been pretty significant over the last 5 to 8 years that betting has, I think, changed the landscape of every sports model. It's crazy. But anyway, in addition, so they said 2-minute warning, they could expand these rules, and then finally throughout a game, league staff members could assist on discerning whether a foul should be classified as roughing or running into the kicker. So the NFL team employees received a memo over this last weekend prohibiting public discussion of the NFLRA negotiations. They don't want anybody talking about it. And they said that Roger Goodell said, quote, the negotiations haven't progressed the way that they had hoped from a timing standpoint. They're behind the 8 ball. Dallas Cowboys owner and CEO and co-chair of competition committee, Stephen Jones, declined to talk about the contingency plan on Monday. He says, quote, out of respect for the process and the ongoing negotiations, end quote. Multiple head coaches also declined to comment on officiating throughout the meetings. New England Patriots coach and competition committee member Mike Vrabel said in jest, quote, I think we should just have coaches call fouls, end quote. And then San Francisco 49ers owner Jed York told ESPN on Monday, quote, I trust the league. I don't deal with that piece of the NFL. I'm not on any committees that deal with it. So whatever they are doing or going to do, I trust the league's operations, end quote. Another club owner requested anonymity, told ESPN, quote, "We have to be prepared for everything," end quote. Jerry Jones said on Tuesday that the contingency plan is a first step to having more input from New York overall, even with regular officials. So kind of what I said in the beginning, they're getting their foot in the door.
Yeah, exactly. And this all comes from them wanting to get a new CBA. And
well, their CBA is running out. So
yeah, so I got a little nugget for you here.
Mm-hmm.
The average salary this year for an NFL on-field referee is somewhere between $350,000 and $385,000.
Sign me up.
That is pretty darn good money, and they want a 10% raise. So that would make someone that is $350,000 would put them up to $385,000. So basically, they want $400,000 a year. Do you think this is them seeing all the dollars that the NFL is making? Why not give the refs $1 million a year? Off we go. Everybody's making enough money.
$1 million?
Yeah, they're making billions.
Bro, listen. These guys work part-time. A lot of these guys are lawyers,
full-time.
Lawyers, doctors, consultants, business owners, like these
Which
guys.
Is stupid. They should be full-time all the time.
Okay, what are they going to do in the offseason? Look, I agree, too, that they should be employees of the NFL. I think they should be employees and not contractors, because then they can be held liable for their actions. And I think that was done intentionally so that they couldn't be held liable. But, yeah, if you want full-time employees, then I think that you need to have a collaboration between college and NFL to put together a full slate of refs that are full-time, and UFL, that they are going to ref all three phases and learn all of the rules. That can get a little confusing at the NFL level, but that's why you're paid that kind of money, to know your shit, right? So that way you have enough refs that are full-time, and then in the off-season, well, what should they be doing? They should be watching film.
Yeah,
they should be self-evaluating what they did and looking at their calls, and then maybe get intimately aware of what these offensive lines and defensive lines are doing, and say, hey, we're not calling enough offensive holding. We're not calling enough defensive holding. We're just not calling enough of this. I see so many things that are missed, but then again, what would that do in the season? It's just going to be a flag fest. So I don't know, man. I think that the whole full-time thing, you'd have to figure out a way to make it so that they have something to do for 5 months out of the year.
I don't care if it's full-time, part-time, whatever. For $400,000, sign me up. I'm ready to go be a ref, and I will do the best job possible. I will go to school for 3 years. I'll do whatever you want. Sign me up.
Yeah, I can't run like that no more. I can't. There's no way.
I'll get in shape.
I wish I would have thought about this when I was younger. Like, I never thought about wanting to be a ref. Never thought about doing this. Never thought about, wanting to get into, really wanting to get into the game differently than being a player until, I was probably in my 20s, when it was always my dream to be a scout someday. And that was after baseball ended for me. I probably should have just started baseball scouting, but I didn't. And I had the opportunity because one of my good family friends owns the Whitecaps. And so I had an opportunity, to probably go do more than what I did in my life. But I'm happy with what I did. I mean, I worked for the family business and for many years, and that was fun. But to think about it now, again, if you got some young kids that are athletic that that they're not going to make it in the pros, maybe they have a decent college career, get those dudes out there being a ref. $300,000-$400,000 a year part-time, and you get to travel the world on the NFL's dime, and you get what's it called? I used to get it when I would do government jobs. You get like a not piece rate. You get some sort of a rate per day, per diem. You get a per diem every day. and whatever the federal per diem is, or I don't know, it's probably like $60-$70 a day, maybe more. And that's for like your food, your travel costs, your hotel, whatever. I mean, I'm sure it's more than that because all your hotels are covered, all your travel costs are covered. But if you get $60-$70 a day, I mean, you're eating out at restaurants every day if you want to. And if you don't have time to, then you're just banking all that money too. It's even more money. Yeah. And it's not taxed.
Well, this also says for playoff games, they make between $3,000 and $5,000. And then the head referee for the Super Bowl receives a bonus of $50,000. So $50,000.
Yeah, there should be a couple zeros behind that.
Yeah.
Especially for the Super Bowl that brings in what 10% of the income of the revenue of the NFL for the entire season.
Really?
It's more than 10%.
Wow.
I mean, just look at the 30-second ads that cost $35 million.
Yeah.
They're making bank. But yeah, you got to get out there. You got to get your kids involved in this, man. Like, I think there's such great ways to make great money today. But there's, again, being a ref, like, you've got to be extremely good. Extremely good. As much as we like to discredit these refs, look, I got to take my hat off to them at some point because they are really good at what they do. I may not agree with what they call all the time, but it's a very tough job. It's a very tough job. And I think that I think refs would have an easier time if they just made it a little bit more transparent. Is your roof going to collapse?
Yeah. Holy crap. Something fell off my roof.
All right, let's get into the rest of the changes that the owners approved. So there was another rule that eliminates a team's incentive to kick the ball out of bounds on kickoffs from the 50-yard line. I don't know what the incentive is.
Did they get it at the 35 or the 40?
Well, it's always been at the 40. So if you kick the ball out of bounds from the 50-yard line, they get it at the 40. So I don't know. I'll keep reading. We'll see if it points to the incentive. It allows teams to declare an onside kick at any point in the game. That's good. That was approved. This change arose because teams wanted to be able to use an onside kick if a penalty enforcement led to them kicking from the 50. That makes a lot of sense because now if you kick an onside kick from the 50, then it has to go to at least the 40, right? So that's better than kicking out of bounds. You get a chance to recover the ball. I would kick an onside kick every time from the 50 then. I wouldn't just kick it off. Why would I do that? You know what I mean? And then how hard is it to kick a ball off and get it straight up in the air to give your team enough time to get downfield and paint that thing inside the 10-yard line or even the 5-yard line? It has to get under the 20, but you know what I'm saying. And then there was a modification of the alignment requirements on the kickoff. Members of the receiving team in the setup zone, aligning the kickoff rule with the original intent of special teams coaches who developed it in 2024. The NFL thinks it could address an increase in the concussion rate on kickoffs. I thought I read something. Maybe you can look this up. Can you look up the reduction in injuries and concussions to the new kickoff rule? I know it's only been a very short window, but I think it was a very large number that they're saying was prevented or has been reduced, like 35% or something crazy with this new kickoff rule. So they're winning, from that perspective. There was also they improved an expansion of its mental health coverage. This is great. To require each team to employ a full-time clinician or offer full-time coverage. 8 of the 32 teams already were in compliance. It is subject to approval by the NFL Players Association because it's part of the CBA. The policy will also provide more support for players on injured reserve. This is huge. Last year, I can't remember the fella's name, but there was a player that took his own life. And he just had a rough go, was constantly injured, and I guess the thought process is when you're on injured reserve, these players are under an immense amount of stress already, right? That their lifeblood, like their job, their primary income, what they've done their whole life to be ready to do is play football. and it's being taken away from them. So these players that are not involved, that, you know, are at home and recovering and whatnot, they need more help. And I don't know all the rules. Like, this would be another great question. I'm going to see if I can send an email to get a question answered. Like, what is the rule on a player that goes to injured reserve? I understand that they're not allowed to be around the team from a practice perspective, right? But can't they be in the facility every day, going through training, rehab, conditioning? I think that's part of it, right? But while they're going through the initial surgery and recovery, you wouldn't expect that they're going to be anywhere near the building because they're going through recovery. But maybe there should be a mandate that you need to be checking in if you're doing your rehab and everything outside the facility, and it's not during the season, that you should be checking in at least, you know, 1 time a week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is. We're showing up for all the meetings. And I don't know the rule. I would assume that they have to be there already, but I don't know the rule. And maybe that would help, you know, that you're around your guys, you're around the coaches. And if they do have a clinician on staff, that maybe it should be somewhat mandatory that they go through, you know, hour meeting a week just to kind of, you know, let it all out, you know. And, you know, I know mental health has got this big stigma, and I don't do enough, you know, for my mental health. Like, I don't take a lot of breaks, or I don't really speak to anybody. But you would think that, you know, as you go through a lot in life, it's good to just talk, right? It's good to just talk it out. And that's part of what this podcast did for me at the start, right? Just being able to talk again. Going through cancer, it gave me an outlet, right? It gave me an outlet to converse and meet people. And so it's good, man. I think what the NFL is doing here is good. I think that mental health shouldn't have a stigma. I think that everyone deserves the ability to have a free mind. And then lastly, there was a rule that permits players on the reserve physically unable to perform list to begin their 21-day practice period after the team's second game of the regular season. Now, this is I think this is big because you had to wait till week 5, you know, after week 4 of the regular season. Now you can come back earlier, you know, essentially 2 weeks earlier, which I think it's a big deal. You were going to look up something.
Yeah, I did.
What'd you find?
The new dynamic kickoff rule was introduced in 2024, and in the 2024 season, it reduced concussions by 43%. And that was the least amount of lower extremity strains on kickoffs since 2018. So it made a major improvement. But then in 2025, the league adjusted the rule, moving the touchbacks from the 30 to the 35-yard line to encourage more returns. This resulted in a return rate of over 75% in the opening week, which data suggests may have led to higher overall injury numbers. So the injury numbers came back up in 2025 because there was more returns.
So what was the number reduction?
43%.
Of which injury?
Concussions.
Okay. Did they mention anything about soft tissue?
Just said lower extremities were down since to their lowest. Lower extremity strains on kickoffs were the fewest since 2018.
Wow. So it's working. I mean, that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they wanted. Maybe it's subjective, but hell, there's got to be some numbers in there that are accurate.
Yeah.
All right. All right, what's up next on your list? We'll be right back here in just a few seconds.
Let's talk pro day.
You wanted to talk pro day? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, so let's talk about Jermod McCoy.
All right.
Could he end up being the cornerback number 1 after missing last season with an ACL? Could this be a JMO type move for the Detroit Lions?
I mean, it could be. Tell us, what are you thinking here?
All right. Well, Jermod McCoy had his pro day yesterday. And is he in the race for cornerback number 1 with LSU's Mansour Delane? They're both viewed as top 15 prospects in this class. But McCoy's health lingered until his pro day workout. He had a torn ACL, which caused him to miss the entire 2025 season, and he sat out the combine. But yesterday he had his pro day, and he had some pretty impressive numbers. He posted a 4.38 in the 40-yard dash, a 38-inch vertical jump, and a 10'7" broad jump. Now, teams love McCoy's size, and compared to Delane, he has 31.25-inch arms compared to 30-inch arms for Delane. And while Delane's elite final season might keep him at the top spot for cornerback, both players feel like a top 12 lock. And this is Field Yates talking about Jermod McCoy. So this got me to thinking, if the Lions were to move up for a player, this kind of reminds me of the JMO situation where he had an ACL and might have pushed him down a little bit. We took JMO at number 12. Could the Lions move up 5? Could the Lions move up 5 spots and take Jermod McCoy?
I don't know that they would have to move up 5 spots, but give me the numbers again on Jermod McCoy.
So he ran a 4.38.
No, hold on. Shoot.
Okay.
Shoot. Mansour Delane. I'm trying to find his pro day stuff.
Mansour's?
Yeah, because he didn't do any testing that I know of at the combine. I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Let's see here. We'll look on a SI or SIS. See what they got for him.
All right, I got his. Wow, yeah, he didn't do crap. I have his 40 though. All right, so give me
McCoy's.
My goodness, McDonald's. McCoy's.
McCoy was a 4.38 in the 40.
All right, and so Delane is a 4.35. 4.35. Now, I don't have any other agility scores for Delane, so I don't have a vert. I don't have a broad. I don't have a shuttle. I don't have a cone. I don't have a bench. Wow. As far as sizing, I have for Mansour Delane, he's 5'11 3/4. What is McCoy?
This doesn't list all that. This just listed that he had 31.25-inch arms. But we can go to SIS and we can look.
Well, you can just look at the combine results.
Yeah.
I mean, I have stuff in my chart, which I'm finishing it this weekend. So I've only done edge, defensive tackle, and offensive line in years past because it takes so much time to do. This year I got them all done. Well, almost all done. So for Mansour Delane.
Yeah, so he's 6'3" and 188 pounds.
With 30-inch arms.
31.25.
For Delane?
No. For McCoy.
Which numbers did you just spit out?
For McCoy.
Okay. Yeah, I was working on Delane. So he's 6'3". He's 188 pounds.
Yep.
And what's his hand size?
His hand size are 9 inches.
All right. And then so for Delane, I think he's 5'11 and some change.
Let's see what they got him listed at.
Yeah, 5'11 3/4.
Yep. 187.
182 is what I have at the pro day.
Okay.
And then 9-inch hand.
Yeah, they had 8 7/8 inch on here.
And it looks like 30
inch arms.
30 point 30. What is the -6? Is that that doesn't make any sense. 6/10 maybe? 3/5? What is a -6?
They need to go to the metric system. Seriously, centimeters are so much.
Well, I mean,
easier.
everyone does something a little bit different, but it should just say 30.5 or 30.4, whatever. But I'm just going to say he's got 30.5 inch arms. I'm just going to go with that. And then his wing it says 74-6. I don't know what the -6 is. I'm just going to say 74.5 inches. It's got to be because it goes in tenths or 16ths, 30 seconds. So is it 6 seconds? Is it 6 16ths? Is it 6/8, which would be 3/4? It's probably that. If we go by the way that they do the height, so it's probably 30 3/4 inch arms. It's 6/8. That's what it is. And then it's 74 3/4 inch wing. Do you have a wing or anything on McCoy?
No, I didn't.
Oh. Well, I guess just with the numbers that we have there, without looking, I haven't looked at his film yet. I haven't looked at McCoy's film from the pro day. I got to find it. But from a size perspective, you're talking an inch difference in height. The poundage, I'm not worried about. The hand size are about the same. The arm length for Delane
McCoy's an inch longer.
is 30 3/4, and Delane was what?
31 3/4.
Then 3/4. And then we don't have a wing for McCoy.
No, I don't see it anywhere.
I just totally screwed all this up. Pretty much it's the same player.
Yeah.
It's a difference of an inch in height and an inch in arm length. The wingspan is what I want to know as far as, is he a longer player or not? The ape index, when you think about an ape index and how it correlates to what a player can do on the field, if you have a short chest, if you're a narrow-chested individual, then you can't get long. I know I talk about this all the time, but I want to remind everybody that at every position it's different. If you have long arms in a big ape score for a tackle, for a defensive tackle, for an edge, like that has dramatic impact. When you look at linebackers, they don't, a lot of them don't have extremely long arms. When you look at running backs and wide receivers, you want longer arms for receivers, but I would say that a lot of them don't have extremely long arms. And running backs, you really don't want them to have long arms. Now, Jeremiah Love, he's a 109 ape index. He's got extremely long arms for the position. But the reason why you want shorter arms is you want nice and tight to your body, right? You don't want an outstretched arm, a longer arm, because the longer your arm is, the easier it's going to be that a defensive back or linebacker can pry that arm down and claw that ball out. But if you're tight and short, compact inside, it's less likely that ball is going to come out. Now, I haven't seen Jeremiah Love lose the ball a whole lot, so I don't think he struggles with that. But in his catch radius, it's around the damn planet. He's so long as a running back. Same type of player here from a size perspective. The question is, whose tape is better? And right now, Mansour Delane is the only one that I've been able to really pin down with his previous tape. The testing tape for the pro day, obviously I haven't looked at for McCoy, but I did look at his regular film, and that was all the way back in 2024. So I don't know who he is.
Yep.
That's my biggest red flag with McCoy is I don't know who he is. Now, he tested good. That's great. But until I see the pro day tape, I don't know what his hips are going to look like today. You know, I don't know how much this injury affected him. He hasn't played in over a year. You know, and that's a giant red flag to me. So I like McCoy, but when you look at McCoy and Hood when they're both playing together, man, they're both really good football players. And I would probably take Hood over McCoy just simply because he's played. And I would probably still put McCoy as my third best corner right now.
Yep. Well, right now on SIS, they have Hood, or they have Jermod McCoy as the number 5 cornerback with Colton Hood above him, Brandon Cease above him, Avion Terrell, and Mansour Delane above him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he's their 5th?
He's cornerback number 5, yeah.
And who is ahead of him again? The 2 in front of him?
Colton Hood and Brandon Cease.
Well, there you go. I'm in line with that. I think I don't know about Cease.
And then they have Avion Terrell and Mansour Delane.
Avion Terrell, yes, but he's also another guy that is light. Like all these guys are kind of light. You know, that 188, 182, 185.
More of that, what's his face? The corner that we just lost in free agency.
Meek
Robertson, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could.
They're not the Terrion Arnold size.
Well, they could be more of a slot style.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on where you think that they're going to slide.
I want bigger, taller corners if possible.
I prefer that. But
that's why I like Terrion.
The one thing that you can't ignore, though, is how these players, you know, play. You can be a little bit smaller. You know, I'm on record saying this. DJ Reed, I wouldn't have drafted him. You know, players like Meek Robertson, I wouldn't have drafted. And that may be a downfall of my own, that I would ignore the shorter players versus the longer players. But when I look at first round talent, obviously I'm looking for, you know, the guys that meet the prototypical size, because more often than not, the prototypical size wins. The guys that are shorter and you know, stockier, shorter arms, you're gonna burn through a lot more of those guys before you will someone with a prototypical size. I can't deny the numbers. The numbers are what they are. Out of 30 corners, if 5 of them are below the prototypical size, and when I mean below, we're talking the DJ Reeds, you know, the 5'8s, the 5'9s, the 180-pound guys with the 31-inch or 30-inch arms and a 103 ape index. Those 5 are going to be towards the bottom end of the cornerback class. You're in and you're out. You know, go look around the league. You know, look at the NFL. Who are the best corners in the league? And I think you'll come to the conclusion that very few and far between a shorter guy is going to win. I got nothing against shorter people. I'm just saying the numbers are what they are.
Yeah.
They are what they are. So where do you made a statement there, like should the Lions move up?
Well, do you see Brad making another move for a player that hasn't played for a year because of an injury? This one's a little different because Jermod McCoy, he's ready. He's going to hit the ground running. It looks like he has 0 issues physically with that knee anymore. He's well over a year past it. JMO did it in the national championship game. He did it in the middle of January, so he was not ready for OTAs. He was not ready for training camp, and it was, game number 9 before he even got on the field, and had 1 catch for a touchdown for the season. And I'm just wondering if Brad is seeing an uber ultra talent that he could maybe get cheaper. Now, these people that went to his pro day yesterday, they're saying, you know, he could be the number 1, number 2 cornerback off the board. Myself, I don't necessarily see it that way. Maybe he's someone we could take at the top of the 2nd round or with pick number 50 if he slides that far. would you be comfortable at number 50 taking a player like Jared McCoy, who is kind of like a JMO deal where he didn't play for a year? Would you be comfortable taking a player that has not played for a year where you're banking on elite progress when he gets to the NFL?
So this is probably the one issue I will have with Brad Holmes. If what you're telling me is, okay, if McCoy slips to the second round, that Brad moves heaven and earth to go up into the 30s to get him because he's not going to go outside the 30s.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get rid of at least a third round pick to move up from 50 to 39 or 37 or 35 in 2027, and you're probably going to give up a fifth round pick this year. So a fifth and a fifth and a third,
seventh round picks. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're gonna do that to move up to get McCoy, who hasn't played in a year.
Yeah.
I know. But that's where the value comes in, right? And that's where I'll have heartburn with Brad Holmes is if you're consistently looking for value, that is not BPA. Value and BPA are totally different. Jameson Williams at 12 was taken exactly where he should have been taken. There was no value added there. If someone is going to try and tell me that he slipped, the hell he did. JMO didn't slip. He went at 12. If you look at almost every single draft, you get premier receivers around 12.
Yeah. Also, if JMO wouldn't have had that ACL and came into that draft healthy, there's no way we would have seen him at 12.
Yeah, we would have. That's what I just said.
You think he would have dropped to 12?
Yes. He did not slip.
I don't know.
How many drafts have you looked at?
A bunch.
Okay, let's go look at the 2025 draft.
All right.
Come on. There we go. 25 picks by round. Let's see. Travis Hunter, corner, not a receiver. Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, Armand Membu. Tedoroya McMillan goes at 8.
Yep.
And then you get no other receivers until 19. Emeka Egbuka, who clearly was the number one receiver in that draft.
Yeah.
And he goes at 19. So you have two players, one that went ahead of 10, and then the best one went at 19. Matthew Golden at 23. He's a turd nugget.
Yeah. Awful.
Right? And so there you go. So you have three players that win in the top 32. Am I missing any?
No. That might have been the biggest reach in the draft last year.
Golden?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one season. You know, he'll have a better year this year because he's been in the system a little bit longer. Okay, so Marvin Harrison Jr., he went at number 4. The Cardinals wanted the guy. That to me was a huge reach. What has Marvin Harrison Jr. done so far to prove that he belonged in the top 5? He hasn't done enough for me. Malik Neighbors, right? Malik Neighbors going at 6. I think that he's proven himself that when he's healthy and he's on the field, he was deserved of a top 10 pick. Yeah. Rome Odunze at 9. Again, when he's healthy and he's on the field, I probably wouldn't have taken him in the top 10.
Yeah, he is borderline.
But you have to look at each draft in a vacuum. What is this draft offering you that other drafts are not? You might have a plethora of receivers, 4 or 5 good receivers that are better than the quarterbacks or better than the offensive tackles or better than the edge. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at each draft a little bit differently, but you can't tell me right now Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze, are they all better than Jameson Williams?
No.
You don't think so? Malik Neighbors? He's better than Jameson Williams.
Malik Neighbors is better. Marvin Harrison isn't.
Malik Neighbors, in his rookie year, put up 1,204 yards. Last year, he was injured. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't even broken 1,000 yet. 885, and then last year 608. Last year he missed a few games. I'm not sure how many. I think it was probably more than 4 or 5. I could be wrong. No, he played 12, so he missed 5 games. So I guess my point is that when you look at each draft, they're all a little bit different. So in 2024, you have quarterback, receiver, offensive lineman, receiver, offensive lineman, quarterback, receiver, quarterback, offensive lineman, quarterback, tight end, offensive lineman, and then finally an edge at 15. Very odd draft, right? All offense. Why did receivers go where they went in this draft? Well, because there's a lot of quarterbacks that went off the board. And clearly, the number 1 pick with Caleb Williams, the Bears went and got Rome Odunze at number 9 because they wanted a receiver to pair with their quarterback. Doesn't mean that he belonged to be there. That's just a player that they were going to take at the pick that they had. Let's go back to 2023 real quick. Okay, you had Bryce Young go number 1 overall, then C.J. Stroud, then Will Anderson, Anthony Richardson, Devon Witherspoon, Paris Johnson, Tyree Wilson, Bijan Robinson, Jalen Carter, Darnell Wright, Peter Skoronski, Jahmyr Gibbs, Luke Van Ness, Broderick Jones, Will McDonald, Emmanuel Forbes, Christian Gonzalez, Jack Campbell, Kalijah County, and then finally JSN at 20. The first receiver comes off at pick 20. So in 2 out of the 3 drafts, the best receiver went at 19 and 20. And then Jordan Addison went after that at 24.
Not better than JMO.
And then in 2022. 2022, we had...
JMO, the year he was drafted, you had a couple go before him. Drake London at 8, Garrett Wilson at 10, and Chris Olave at 11.
Yep. And I would say that Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal receiver. Drake London, I wouldn't say that he's really...
He hasn't worked out so hot.
Well, I mean, he's had a couple of decent years. Like 2024, he had a hell of a year. 2023, just under 1,000. His rookie season, he had 866. Then last year, he had 919. I don't know how many games he's missed, but he only had 9 touchdowns. Not only. He had 9 touchdowns in his best year, which was 2024. Mm-hmm. So, a good receiver. I mean, those are good numbers. He's close to 1,000 almost every year, but very low production in the TDs, you know? And so I would say that was a reach. Still a great receiver. I wouldn't have taken him at 8, but then again, you have to look at the draft. Like, what was available in the draft? In this draft, you just had 3 receivers go in a row, or 3 out of 4 picks were receivers, and I think that's where the Lions were like,
yeah,
we need it. You know, there's a run on receivers. Is there going to be a 4th? And so they went up and grabbed JMO, and then what happens? Jahan Dotson goes at number 16. And so I'm thinking to myself here, there's no way that JMO wouldn't have been available at 17, 19. Someone would have taken him. Well, the next receiver was Treylon Burks at 18. The difference is Jahan Dotson and Treylon Burks were healthy, right? Those players were going to play. Teams are not going to take a player that can't play the entire year. The last 6 games he got in, didn't do anything. They're not going to waste a first-round pick on a player you could get in the second round, top of the second round, or even at the back end of the first round if you want that 5th year because you know he's out for a year. That's the only way it made sense for me with the Lions is you knew that you were going to need an extra year for JMO to get ready. It ended up being 2 years, but they needed that. I just think that we gave up way too much to move up to number 12 to take JMO. I think that they could have got him later.
If you listen to the former GM of the Minnesota Vikings, if they did not trade with the Detroit Lions, they were taking JMO with that pick at 12.
I'm sorry, who said this?
The former GM of the Vikings.
Yeah, I doubt it. When did he say? Who was this? Kwesi?
Yeah.
When did Kwesi say that?
I can't remember. I'm almost positive it was him that said that if...
Oh, so you don't know for sure.
If they hadn't done the trade, I can't remember. But If they hadn't done the trade, they were going to take JMO. Because I know a lot of Vikings fans feel like we stole him from them. But I can tell you, I'll take JMO over Treylon Burks. I'll take him over Jahad Dotson. I'd probably take him over pretty much everyone in that class. Garrett Wilson's the only one that has had really good seasons, but his last season wasn't all that spectacular. But he had no quarterback to throw him the ball. He had Justin Fields, and I can't remember who their other one was for the Jets last year.
So here's what Quessy said after the draft in 2022. He said, Williams was one of our favorite players in the draft, but we have a pretty bad dude on our team. And we can add other pieces on the other side. And again, they have to play the Minnesota Vikings. We don't got to play Jameson Williams. So I don't think they were taking JMO. They liked him, but not at 12.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have traded 12 if they were going to take JMO.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way. I think that it was a reach. He's turned out to be a good player, but what the Lions traded, pick what, 30, what we traded 2 early second round picks. You know, we traded 32 and 34 and 66 to move up to number 12. And we got pick 46 in return. What was our first round pick?
I don't know.
What was our first round pick in that draft?
This doesn't say.
Hold on, let me go all the way back.
It would have been the Rams pick.
Well, where did the Vikings pick later?
It was 32.
32? How did we get 32? Because they just won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, could we have gotten... I mean, we definitely didn't want Lewis signed. I mean, that didn't pan out, did it?
God, that was horrible.
So, at 32, could you have gotten JMO? Possibly. But you know what you probably could have done? I mean, we could have had Tyler Linderbaum at 25. But we didn't need him. We had Frank Ragnow. Right? I know people look at that like, we could have had him. What you could have done, we could have had Trent McDuffie at 21. At 32, at giving away 32 and 34 and 66 to get 12, and you gave up 32, 34, 66 to get 46 and 12. I probably would have traded 32, or I'm sorry, I would have traded 34 and 66 in next year's one, or next year's one and pick 34 to move up 5 or 6 spots and get JMO. I wouldn't have traded that far. And maybe Brad Holmes tried. Maybe there was other teams that he tried to trade with. You know, in that draft, who else traded?
All sorts of them.
Yeah, it looks like
half the board is trades.
21 traded, 22 traded, 23 traded, 25 traded, 26 traded, 27, 29, 18, 19. So there was a lot of movement. The Lions could have moved up at any other spot but 12 and probably save themselves a second round draft pick or even 2 of them. I mean, to move up 4 or 5 spots from 32 to 25, 26, that's like a day 3 pick. If you're pick swapping. If you're pick swapping 32, it's a day 3 pick.
There was 18 trades in
that's
the first
freaking nuts.
round. 18.
I'm sorry, I might be in my own a boat all by myself on this one, but I feel like that trade, we got a good player. Yes, it was, it was a player that wasn't going to play for his first year. I think he only played and was brought up because it would have told his contract if he didn't come in for the last 6 games of the year. If he wasn't active for the last 6 games of the year. That's why they did that. But they gave him an opportunity to get a few snaps. But that was a year that it was a throwaway year. 2023 was going to be his year. I firmly believe that Brad made a big mistake there. He still could have got JMO a little bit later, maybe saved a little bit. But then again, he wanted his guy, he got his guy. But the whole basis of this conversation was where do really good wide receivers go that aren't injured?
Yeah.
You can't convince me that they belong in the top 12. I think, hell, we could have had Emeka Ibuka, or, we could have had JSN, the next year or whatever. But
yeah. But I think what this whole discussion boils down to is, do you still think that Brad is willing to take a risk on an injured player that did not play last year?
And that's
anywhere in the draft.
I would say no, based on his recent comments. His recent comments is,
maybe he learned his lesson.
No, maybe we don't take, as many projects. When you think of Jameson Williams, that's a project.
He was, yes.
And I think when you look at the 3rd round picks or the 4th round picks that people consider projects, well, here's a newsflash. They are all projects in the 3rd and 4th. They're all projects in every round, but a lot of 3rd round picks, 15% don't start, and less than 3% become elite football players. So they're all projects. And in the 1st round, you got to hit, man. You need players that can start, and that's usually the top 15 players. In every draft, you can count on 15 players that can really help your team. And then after that, you got some players that could either really help your team or be really good rotational players for a year until they develop. Every one of those players is developing. And just some are developed a little bit faster. Some come in with a higher floor, and some don't. So, anyway, what's next?
Oh, let's see. Do I have anything else?
Well, the other day we were going to talk about the whole Frank Ragnow thing. I think we should put a bow on that, and then Puka Nacua. Yeah, I'll just be quick with that one. Puka Nacua is in rehab in Malibu because of what, Eric? What happened?
I gotta find it here. Well, on New Year's Eve there was an incident. So Puka Nacua has checked into rehab following allegations he bit a woman while drunk on New Year's Eve. The Rams receiver attorney, Levi McCathern, confirmed with the California Post on Wednesday that his client has been at a luxury treatment center in Malibu. That sounds really rough. And while McCathern said the move was not a direct response to the lawsuit Nakua's bite accuser, Madison Alabidi, filed against him late last month, the lawyer did say the combination of stories y'all have run is certainly a contributing factor. For one thing, I don't want a lawyer that says y'all. And then he went on to say he was in there a substantial period of the time before any of these allegations broke with Madison, and he's scheduled to be there for a while longer. And then he added that Nakua's goal with the stay is to improve his overall behavior in every aspect of his life that he can do it.
Look, he said some wild stuff lately.
He did. And he got caught on tape doing some wild stuff there before the Super Bowl.
So I don't know if he has an issue. I mean, clearly he thinks he has an issue, with substances, whatever those substances are. Was it alcohol related?
Yeah, it sounds like alcohol.
Yeah.
But one day he's going to date one girl, Sydney Sweeney, and then he's trying to date another supermodel, something or other, and then he gets bit by this girl on New Year's Eve. And
he bites the girl, right? Allegedly.
Yeah, and he just kind of became unhinged towards the end of the season there, and I didn't know whether to think he's becoming a diva or if he's just going off the deep end. And it kind of sounds like he kind of went off the deep end a little bit. Maybe he was looking for love in all the wrong places.
Well, you're not going to find it at the end of the bottle with a worm staring at you in the face. I can tell you that. That's exactly where you're not going to find it. Well, whatever he's got going on, hopefully he gets it figured out, because even some of the statements that he's made, they're pretty wild. Hopefully he gets it worked out. He's a great player. You would hate to see those kinds of things get in the way, and hopefully Matthew Stafford can help him out.
Yeah, and he's up next for contract extension because he's in the last year of his rookie contract, because he was 6th or 7th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a late round pick. So they're going to want to lock him up. He's been playing on the cheap. And now it's going to be time to pay up. And with this stuff going on, that might kind of affect, his ability to have a premium output on his contract.
We'll see where it goes, man. Just wish him nothing but the best. You hate to see that stuff with these guys. You know, there's too many. Again, goes back to the whole mental health thing that the NFL is trying to implement. Even more so to help these guys out. They're under a lot of pressure, and
very much so.
Money changes people, in a weird way.
Yeah, and
you might do things you don't normally do.
It's already came out that Matthew Stafford is coming back for his 18th season.
According to McVay, he's going to play into his 40s.
Yeah.
That's interesting, right?
Very interesting. I'd
let's
love to see it, for a player that the Detroit Lions took in 2009 following the 2008 blunder of 0-16, and to have this kid come through and he plays in the longest segment, uninterrupted segment of that NFL show ever, where he did that play, got his shoulder separated, went back in, got it put in. They called a timeout. He goes back in and throws the game-winning touchdown. That just made all the Detroit Lions
was that the Browns?
That was against the Browns, yeah. Because Sean Rogers tackled him and separated his shoulder. And it cemented him as a legend in Detroit. It made everybody fall in love with the kid. We all knew that he was the quarterback that could get it done. We knew it from the moment we got him all the way until he left. We knew that he was good enough to win a Super Bowl. Everybody in Detroit knew it. They just couldn't put a team around him. Never could put a coach around him and a staff around him. So I would love to see him keep playing into his 40s and be better than, well, he can't be better than Tom Brady because he can't have that many Super Bowls, but I would love to see him go down as a Hall of Famer.
Oh, he will. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's definitely gold jacket.
Well, Eli's got 2 Super Bowls and he's not a gold jacket. So
that shouldn't happen, but there's no way Matthew Stafford's not. Like,
okay.
There's no way.
You think he's a first ballot?
First ballot. 100%. I mean, with what he's done in his career, the statistical output alone probably could have got him close, not as a first ballot. That one Super Bowl, I mean, that flipped the script. Matthew Stafford to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Who's not a first ballot Hall of Famer right now? Well, man, I want to talk about Frank Ragnow real quick and this whole issue with Taylor Decker. Take a minor break. I'll be right back. Did the Detroit Lions get it wrong, Eric? Making Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker, forcing them to pay back the bonus money? Did they get this wrong? I mean, I would say that there's a lot of takes out there, and we haven't really had an opportunity to kind of walk through this. I did a little bit when it first came out, but I haven't heard you say anything about this yet. So what do you think here? Give me your take, not something that's set out there. What is your take on the situation, how the Lions handled it?
You're not going to like it.
No, I might or might not. I mean,
my take is different. To answer your question, nope. The Lions did nothing wrong. And I used to think that they had slighted Calvin and slighted Barry by asking for this money back, but then I got to thinking. Let's say my dad's best friend is a carpenter, and he's building a home for me. Great big giant house. And he gets halfway through that house and he falls off a ladder and he breaks his leg. Well, he's back at it the next day fixing that house, and he's out there with that broken leg, and he gets my house 3/4 of the way done. He comes over to my house every Sunday, and we have dinner every Sunday, and we're good friends. And, he's friends with my dad, and just, we're all hunky dory. There's a lot of history there. We used to go on family trips together and yada, yada, yada. All right. So this guy's a great family friend, great friend of mine, great friend of my dad's. Well, he gets 3/4 of the way done through my house and says, well, you know what? I'm 68. I've been through a broken leg, and I put a nail through my thumb one day. I've had enough. That's it. I can't finish your home, but I've already paid him for this home. I've already paid him to finish it, everything. Well, I want to get my home finished, and I got nobody to finish my home for me. So I'm going to say, hey man, I'm going to need that quarter of the money that I gave you back because you didn't finish building my home. And I'm sorry, I know we're friends and everything, and I know you've been through a ton. You come over every weekend for dinner, and you broke your leg and you put a nail through your thumb, but I got to pay for this house. Finishing this house has nothing to do with all the stuff you've done for me. I need my house finished. So that's the way I look at it. If I'm the business. Now, I understand the fans are like, man, this is bad look on the Lions, and look what the Colts did with Andrew Luck. They let him keep $23-24 million. Well, that's the Colts. That's not me. And my situation's a little different. The Colts have a bunch of Super Bowls. We don't have that. We need all the money we can get. We need every available dollar to go after every free agent and every draft pick that we can possibly get here in Detroit. So every dollar that the Lions can scrape and scrounge and get, they're going to need. And you want to know the one thing I did not hear out of all of this with Frank Ragnow? The one person we have not heard from, whether he agrees with it or whether he doesn't, and that is Frank Ragnow himself.
Well, you're not going to hear from Frank about this. You're not going to probably hear from Taylor Decker about the same situation. But, Taylor Decker gave them the answer when they needed the answer, so that he didn't get more bonus money, given to him that they would have to claw back. So it's not that I don't like the take. The thing is I kind of feel the same way. And that's what I said, the other night. And I kind of used a similar analogy. It's kind of weird. But very, very similar analogy to the fact that, yeah, if you pay for something and it doesn't get finished, or you don't receive your goods, then of course, or your services, of course you're going to want a refund. The difference here is this is not Frank's money. This is the Detroit Lions money. Frank Ragnow was given a bonus. He was supposed to play out his contract regardless of the injuries, regardless of what he did for the team, regardless of how many games that he played hurt. It's still their money. Now, do I agree that the small amount of money that was given to him in addition, that was supposed to come back. I think it was 1.6 or 1.3, whatever the dollar amount was. If I'm the owner of a team, would I probably allow him to keep that money? Yep, I would. And it would be a small thank you gesture to say, dude, you put your life and limb literally on the line for this team. You played when you couldn't or shouldn't really have been playing. You played against, our doctors telling you not to play, but you still wanted to go out there and battle for your team. Now, the difference for me and what I put out there is, you know what? This comes down to about $3 per game, per seat inside Ford Field for an entire season of 8 games at home. If the fans would have been mobilized to say, you know what, charge me $3 when I walk in the door. Put out a big old bucket at every entry for every game and take a donation for Frank Ragnow. $3 per person every game that you walk in that door. That'll be at least $1.5 million. Oh
yeah.
That's all that's all it is $3 from every person that attends a game for an entire year if you fill the house. So it's on the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money to this team, but it is affecting the cap by that dollar amount because that money went out. So that money will be artificially re-injected back into the cap when it does come back. The thing that I would say is not being his money. Well, it's not. I mean, the bonus money, like what's his name? Rod Wood said, that bonus money really doesn't belong to him, just like it didn't belong to Calvin Johnson and it didn't belong to Barry Sanders. But again, would I have made those players pay that money back, the small amounts? No. And I get it. The Colts owner, I mentioned that too, the other night when I talked about this, the Colts owner allowing him to keep that $24 million. I don't know the full reason as to why. I can't remember what happened with Andrew Luck's contract. Clearly he had to be into his second contract pretty deep. He played at least, 7, 6, 7, 8 seasons or whatever it was. So he made a bunch of money, clearly got a bigger second deal. But why did they allow him to keep $24 million? That just seems like a very big, it's a very big amount that they weren't worried about getting back for whatever reason. Maybe the owner cut him a check outside of that. Or could have, as opposed to allowing that money hit the cap. He could have. He could have just sent him a personal check from his business for $24 million, as opposed to allowing it, to hit the cap, but he didn't. In this case, what I don't like is this. The fans, the media, whomever's talking about it, saying that the Lions are continuing a trend of, making their players repay money when that's not accurate. They're just getting their money back.
Fulfill your contract. There's no issue.
But I think that the main problem for fans here is that there's so much attachment to those 3 players' names. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and Frank Ragnow. 3 players that have done more for this team in the last 3 decades. Longer than that. Over the last 4 decades have done more for this team. They retired early and didn't end up winning the ultimate trophy. So, yeah, should you pay them a $2 million severance package to say, sorry, we couldn't get you the ring? But you put life and limb on on the line for us every single Sunday. Wish we could have helped you. Wish we could have got it, together. There's many ways to look at it, but from a business perspective, the Lions aren't doing anything wrong. They're not. Do I like it? Do I agree with it fully? I don't. But
everybody's jumping on them and they're being vilified, especially Rod Wood. Like I saw so many things. Rod Wood can't be gone fast enough, and I can't believe Brad Holmes would do this, and just
first of all, Brad Holmes does not do anything with the money.
No.
Brad Holmes is the general manager of the players and the personnel that are underneath him. He doesn't do anything with the money. Now he can sign players to contracts, but that still goes through a group of people that all make these decisions. He's largely in charge of handing out the contracts and the dollar amounts, but that still runs through the financial team to make sure everything is going to work. And yeah, the president could say no, right? He absolutely could. So one former player that stuck his neck out into this whole circus was Kelsey. And he said, quote, "This was clearly a player that the game had physically taken its toll on, and his body was clearly no longer holding up to the rigors of the NFL. It wasn't just some player deciding he didn't want to play anymore. It wasn't that simple. And these signing bonuses are there to protect players from the inevitable injuries that they occur on the field. Ragnow signed a 4-year, $54 million contract extension in May of 2021. That made him the highest paid center in the NFL with a $6 million signing bonus. That is peanuts compared to that contract. You don't ever see a signing bonus that is less than 10% of the overall number. The signing bonus from the contract counted $1.5 million each season against the salary cap from 23 to 26. Well, because he didn't play in 2025 and 2026, he was clearly owed money, but he was given money in 2025 because he decided to retire in June. When that money hit in March, I believe, is when that bonus was handed out, mid-March, when the new league year changed. Lions president Rod Wood confirmed that the team asked for a portion of Ragnow's signing bonus, which would have been the $1.5 million that he was given. And it goes on to say that Wood said, quote, "Our precedent goes all the way back to Barry Sanders. And if Barry Sanders paid back money, and I think the reality is they're not paying back their money, they are returning our money because they were paid in advance for services that they hadn't completed." The other side of this is this. This is a difference of one thing happening for Frank Ragnow, and I said this on Twitter. Frank was not going to let any doctor tell him what to do. Frank wasn't about to say or allow a doctor to take him out of a game. If he felt that he could play, he was going to play. And the Lions were going to let him play. If you want to do it, do it. We're going to tell you it's not right. We're going to tell you probably shouldn't, but that's up to you. And so he played. If Frank would have sat out the final game of the year in 2024 due to medical reasons, and he was scratched because of medical reasons, and then retired, he wouldn't have to pay this money back. If he was medically uncleared to play and then was forced into retirement because of that, he wouldn't have to pay this money back. And I think that is a sticking point that maybe rubs people a little bit raw, is that he clearly had a lot of things wrong with him from the game. And he decided to play through those things. And because he was one of the toughest sons of guns to ever play the game, he had to pay the money back because he didn't want to go out on disability. He didn't want to go out on on anything other than his shield. He wanted to play through it all. He wanted to win a Super Bowl for Detroit. He fought every single day to do that. But because he didn't allow a medical clearance determine whether he was going to play or not, he's paying back the money. And for that reason, I think it's a little grimy of what the Lions are doing. But I don't think it's I know it's not against any of the collective bargaining rules. I don't care about the precedent with Barry Sanders. I don't care about the precedent with Calvin Johnson. But I do believe that you do need to have a little bit of a heart and maybe be a little bit more respectful to the players that helped you do this. Now, the whole Taylor Decker thing, him expecting phone calls. Okay, look, dude, you haven't retired.
No.
You wanted to be released. Once you are released and you're no longer on the team, no one owes you anything. If you fully retired, I can almost guarantee that something would have happened, right? But that's not what went down. There was very tough conversations that were had between the Lions and the agent, and to a lesser extent with Taylor Decker, because they didn't have a conversation, but I guess since the end of the season. And there's a big miscommunication there. So it's soured. It happens, but he didn't retire. So the Lions don't owe you anything. I do have one final thing I'll add to this. How come Frank Ragnow was never honored for his retirement?
Because they thought he was coming out all the way to Thanksgiving.
But
because we went down there thinking he was going to play in the game because we brought him back.
No, back up. He retired. There was no coming back until 6 months later.
Yeah.
Or 4 months later. He retired in June.
Mm-hmm.
So if he retired, why was he not given a moment to talk to the fans and have a little ceremony like they did for Jason Kelce?
Who knows? Yeah.
Like, is that not a thing anymore? Because I've seen it from other teams where they retired and they, hey, I want to thank the fans, want to tell the fans why I'm doing this and, and have some clarity with all this for everybody involved. And that didn't happen. So it brings me back to Tinfoil Hat Friday for just a moment that, maybe some of these moves are money related and it's helping the Lions with their salary cap, and that maybe Frank was going to try to come back. And that's why there was no retirement ceremony. And then once it was fully conditioned that he couldn't come back, well, now the Lions have to look at that from the standpoint of, okay, now we got to get our bonus money back. But if he would have come back and played even one game, then that bonus money would have been his. And maybe that's what he tried to do, but he couldn't pass his physical. It's kind of funny how Taylor Decker did the same thing. All of a sudden, he's coming back. And then all of a sudden, it's released that he has a bicep tear on his arm, the same arm that he's been struggling with. So there's no way that he could play. He has to go through rehab, possible surgery. It's kind of weird, isn't it? That they're coming back knowing they got these injuries.
Yeah.
So I don't know the motivation, but it's not like they have to be motivated by money. I mean, they have more money than they probably know what to do with. So either way,
is there any bonus money that's going to be recouped from Taylor Decker? Because he asked for his release.
I don't know exactly, but let me just put it this way. They asked Taylor Decker to retire or make a decision before March 10th so that on the third league day of this year, which would have been, I believe, March 16th, March 13th, that they didn't forward him his bonus for 2026. Because I think he would have received about a $6 million bonus or something like that for this year.
Oh, okay.
So by having him retire or make the decision before then, well, then no, you're not owed that money. But what he would be owed is the balance of any guarantee at sign or guaranteed money from the year previous that he would have been owed. That's it. So I don't think there's anything that's coming back from Taylor Decker. It's just the way that Frank Ragnow retired was the post-June 1. And he was already receiving his bonus money. So, and that was 3 months prior to that.
This is my suggestion to all players in the NFL. Don't retire before you've earned all your money.
So
don't retire early.
Let's see if we can find some comments in here in the chat real quick. Let's see. Robbie says, my opinion at this point regarding contracts is the deal was in place for a team. They left early. So why are they entitled to the full term of the money? Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. But I also believe they should add a clause. What's the clause? What's the clause? I don't see another message for a clause. But anyway, it's 11 o'clock. You got to run.
Yeah, I got to get going. So I will see you guys all on Monday.
Monday. All right. We'll see you later, man. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Take care. All right, let's do. I like to end every show now with some sort of a mock draft. I didn't see anyone say that we had any audio issues today, so that's good. I was expecting some. We're gonna get into his background music time. His mock draft. Let me get one pulled up here. One sec, almost there. All right, hopefully that it's not too loud now. Do we have an echo? Looks like we do. Let me just fix that real quick. All right, I think we're good. I'm trying to get this volume down a little bit, but all right, I think we're all right. Okay, let's get it on, man. Let's get it on with a mock draft today. So, also taking a look at like top positions here. You know, when you look at quarterbacks or running backs. I'm going to do this mock draft in order of the top 5 and see what happens, right? Let's just see where this goes. Let's just do it all. I got to sign in. That's right. Shoot. We'll do 3 rounds. And instead of doing every pick, I'm going to try to do like every other one. So we'll start with the Lions. I'll do all the odds. No, let me kill this. There we go. I'll do all the odds. And then we'll let it randomize the evens. And we'll do 1 round. We'll do one round for the first one. And I'm not going to do the first pick. All right, here we go. All right, so Jeremiah Love goes to the Jets. Interesting. Man, I couldn't argue with that, I guess. That'd be a crazy pickup for them. They could seriously use a running back of his caliber. All right, so for the Cardinals, I'm not going to look at any of my previous ones. And this weekend, I'm putting out a lot of stuff this weekend. Finally, I'm a little late on some things, but it is what it is. All right, so for the Cardinals, look, I still believe Maui Noah is the pick here. You know, they don't have a quarterback that they love, and you know, maybe they try to make a play for Ty Simpson. I just don't see it at 3. And honestly, next year is probably the year that you're looking at grabbing a quarterback of the future. I still think that they need Maui Noah, the best tackle in the draft, at least right now, and makes a lot of sense to me. And so Maui Noah, like I said, I'm going through the top 5s. And so if I go back and look at the top 5 picks, the top 5 players at every position. Right now, Maui Noah where are we at? All right, tackles. Here we go. Maui Noah is the overall number 1 consensus on the board. Monroe Freeling is number 2. Fano is number 3. Or Caden Proctor is number 3, depending on whose board you're looking at. I would say that Caden Proctor is number 2, personally. Scheme dependent. So number 5 for the Giants. Again, I'm going to disregard what I've done in the past. I think their wide receiver room is fine. I think going with a guard here makes a ton of sense. But, man, the linebacker, look, there's only one. There's only one that makes a lot of sense. I think Arvell Reese is going to be an edge at the next level. He could be a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he'll have the opportunity to play up on the line. But I think Sonny Styles is going to operate more as your traditional 4-3 will linebacker. So that's where I'm going here for the Giants, regardless of defense. All right, David Bailey goes to the Browns. On the clock with Washington. You guys know I've gone back and forth on this. You could go safety here. There's not that many safeties in this draft. It's a light safety group, but that may not be the pressing need for them. Running back is already gone. Jeremiah Love disappeared at number 2. So then you got to start looking at wide receiver or defensive line, according to PFF. And according to my notes, let me get my notes. All right. I think I'm still going to stick and pick with offensive line here. I don't see defensive line going this early. But you know what? Yeah, we'll stick and pick here. I'm going to stick with Carnell Tate. I would usually go Jeremiah Love there. Arvell Reese goes to the Saints. So the Chiefs are on the clock. You guys know what I love here. I love Kenyon Sadiq. If we're going to go wide receiver, edge, or DB here, if we take a look at the edge class, well, Reese is gone. Bailey's gone. So I think that you're all out on edge at this point, unless you're going to reach and take somebody like Akeem Messidor. As far as defensive back, I do see a defensive back going potentially to the Chiefs, but I really like Kenyon Sadiq here. I think that gives them a big time threat, and it has the replacement for Travis Kelce. I'm going to stick there. I'm on Kenyon Sadiq, goes top 10. All right, Mansour Delane goes to the Bengals. That's a great pick. I think I've put him there a couple of times myself. As far as the Dolphins go, They're going to go inside the trenches, I think, to start. And what a better way to start than with Vega Neone. Monroe Freely goes to the Cowboys. That's the first time I've seen that one. The Rams are on the clock, and I think the Rams definitely need to keep Matthew Stafford upright. There's not a linebacker that I'm going to take right here that would make a ton of sense. But does he need another weapon downfield with the whole Puka Nacua thing going on? You know, maybe they need some insurance here. And this may not be everyone's pick, but Omar Cooper Jr. here, I really like him going to the Rams. Matthew Stafford can hit him downfield for sure. Caleb Downs going to Baltimore. We've seen that plenty of times. I think that's a good box safety pickup for them. As far as the Bucs here at 15, they definitely need some trench help. There's no linebacker I'm going to, give to them just yet. Now that we're into the 15s, though, potentially you could add another edge, and Akeem Mesidor stays in Florida. Dylan Thieneman goes to the Jets. Man, they got the number one free safety and the number one running back in the draft. And the Lions are on the clock at pick 17. You guys know how I feel about this. I love Caden Proctor. I really think he could help this team out a ton. If Monroe Freeling is really off the board, and that was everyone else's choice for the Lions but mine, then maybe the Lions pivot. And they try to trade back. I think that would be a great choice for them, trading back. There's still plenty of dogs on this roster here to choose from. Spencer Fano, again, we'll just look at where he's played. He's a right tackle. If you're going to move Penei Sewell to the left side, then Spencer Fano is the perfect right tackle, right? If you're going to keep Penei Sewell on the right side, then I would stick with Caden Proctor being my left tackle. But I need insurance. I'm doing it again. I need Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. There's just not another player in the draft like him. He's definitely your strong, more of a stronger safety. I feel that you can bring him up into the box. I don't see him as a free safety. Let's just put it that way. I think he's more of a strong safety, and he likes to play up on the line. He does his dirty work, man, in the run game up on the line. Look at that. Fano goes right behind the Lions there at 18 to the Vikings. That puts the Panthers on the clock. And they definitely need a center. It's too early for that. I think you're going to get your first defensive lineman here coming off the board, even though their defensive line's pretty solid. There's no tight end that I'm going to put here. And then they also need a wide receiver. And I do like Jordan Tyson over Mekhi Lemon for the Panthers. Wow. Cowboys take CJ Allen. That's an interesting pick. I'd probably go Cassius Howell there if you think that he can end up being a linebacker. With the Pittsburgh Steelers needing a quarterback, it definitely would make a lot of sense that, I need to look something up. It would make a lot of sense here for them to take Tyson. They only have Mason Rudolph and Will Howard. We don't know what's going on yet with Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers would be the right move. And you know what? Maybe they just want to limp through this year and get a couple of really good picks and look to next season to find their next quarterback, which would make a lot of sense too. And if that's the case, where did I put him at? Yeah, Loney I gave to the Dolphins. All right. If that's the case, then Caden Proctor ends up in Pittsburgh. I think we've done that one a few times. Jermod McCoy, good pro day, as we discussed this morning. That's an interesting option. Philadelphia Eagles. They need offensive line and edge and safety. I think that they love that safety position a lot, but I don't think it's their number one need right now. I would say edge is probably a bigger need, and even wide receiver, the unknown of A.J. Brown. Hold on here. AJ Brown. I wonder if he's going to get traded. So they have Cooper DeJean as a nickel. Marcus Epps at strong safety. Their free safety is Andrew Makuba. And I would say that they're pretty good there. They also have Quinnen Mitchell as a left corner and Reek Woolen on the right side. Like, their defense is pretty solid. Their defensive line, their linebackers are pretty solid. Like, really solid. You know what? I think that you could see some movement here in the wide receiver room. Now, Mekhi Lemon is not an AJ Brown at all, not even close. Who would be the next best receiver that has size, length, right? Speed. I mean, Denzel Boston's not the flashiest guy in the world, but you're looking at a guy that is 6'4", 209 pounds. That's a guy that could do a lot of damage. Denzel Boston, man, he cracks the first round. He goes to the Eagles. Mekhi Lemon to the Browns. Interesting. I don't know that I would have done that, but that's a simulation for you. Bears on the clock. They are definitely taking a kicker in the first round. Maybe they're going to trade Ben Johnson somewhere. I thought their corner room was pretty good. Yeah, I say they just trade Ben Johnson like to Alaska. Could you imagine if there's an Alaska team in NFL or an NFL team in Alaska? That'd be kind of nuts, wouldn't it? All right, taking a look at their offensive line. I think they're good. The wide receiver room could probably use some help. They got Khalif Raymond, but is he really the answer? No. They brought in Luther Burden, Roma Dunze they still have, but they're pretty weak behind those three guys. Their offensive line, I would say, is fine. Their tight end room could definitely use an upgrade. Too early for that. Running back, I'd say they're solid in the running back game, at least for this year. They might look to add one later in the draft. Sweat, Dexter on the front. Grady Jarrett, Deo Odebingo, Edwards, Bush, Stevenson, Lewis, Bryant. Man, their free safety and safety room, they just got really good. Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, solid, all solid, and they got some good depth. So I'm going to say, why not? I hate this move. I really hate this move, but Keldrick Faulk. Run stuffer. You want to stop the Lions, you need someone that can stuff the run. Cassius Howell goes to the Bills. Up next is San Francisco. I don't think Blake Miller's going to fall much further, but they need a tackle and a guard. And you know who makes a ton of sense there? Is Max Ahanachor. I don't think that he's going to leapfrog Miller, at least right now. And he's a guy that can play inside and out. I know he's played right tackle, but you might look at him as the next best guard, given, he doesn't have a ton of time in the league. And I also see safety being an option here, and I think this could be a great option for Thieneman if he was still there, but he's gone. Emmanuel McNeil Warren's gone, and Downs is gone. Yeah, TJ Parker here for me. Avion Terrell goes to the Texans over Colton Hood. Interesting. Kansas City, again, they got their tight end. Now they're looking for that edge or that DB. Looking for that edge of that DB. I know that D'Angelo Pons is a little bit short, but you can't deny his work on the field. If D'Angelo Pons was 3 inches taller, or even 2 inches taller, he'd be the number one DB in this class for cornerbacks. Excuse me, he'd be the number one cornerback in this class without a doubt. Colton Hood, love his work. 6 foot, 195. He's prototypical. According to their notes here, they say that he's talented but inconsistent, needs further development. With only 1 full season as a starter, he may struggle early if tasked with covering NFL receivers right away. And that is a real possibility, and that's why I think he makes a lot of sense in Detroit. Because right now, you don't need a starter. If Terrion Arnold is healthy, right, which should be, and with DJ Reed there, you don't need a starter. You need capable backups. And I think that Colton Hood, fits that mold to a T for the Lions. If the Lions can somehow add some more picks in the second round, and if Colton Hood lasts that long. But edge, man, Caleb Banks. I have a big heartburn with him going this early because of his inconsistencies. I'm going to give Kansas City Mr. Young here. It's a bit of a reach, but it's possible. It's possible. With Dolphins up next. How did I end up with the Dolphins? Maybe I didn't click off on them. Whoops. Wide receiver, guard, DB. Who did I give him the first time? I gave him the guard. Yeah, I think their defensive line probably needs a lot more help. We'll go Cade McDonald here. Patriots. Man, they got Romeo Doubs, Keyshawn Boot, Mac Hollins. They got a good trio of wide receivers. I still think that they could use a wide receiver upgrade here, especially after losing their speedster there, the Cheetah. I think they have enough in the running back room, especially this early. Clearly, they have a quarterback. Their tight end, they've got Hunter Henry and Julian Hill. Too early to add a tight end right now. Offensive tackle and offensive guard. I still think you're going to want to get an upgrade here, whether it's tackle and you kick Will Campbell into guard, or which they'll never admit that they're going to do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. On the interior, the defensive line, they have Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. I mean, that's a good duo. Joshua Farmer is just an absolute freak to back them up. Defensive edge, they got Harold Landry, Draymond Jones. It's a good start. Linebacker, they got Spillane, Ellis, KJ Britt, and Mapu. Carlton Davis obviously still there with Christian Gonzalez. I mean, they're pretty solid. I'd say that their safety room could need some help a little bit later. And their linebacker room is probably going to want to get a little bit younger. And even off the edge, I could say that, they could probably use some help there too, especially with the age of some of those guys. So I think that this is a good opportunity to try to find another edge. And then even up front on the interior, if you're looking for another guy, because Milton Williams is like a 50%er. They rotate heavily in New England. I think you could go interior defensive line and or linebacker, but if it is a linebacker, there's just not one that I love. But Jacob Rodriguez he's been getting a lot of talk lately. I just don't see him as a first rounder. And Gabe Yakas, I have a hard time putting him in the top 75 right now after the research I did on him last night. All right, we'll go defensive line here. We're going to give them Caleb Banks. There's just too much energy there. Too much energy. So not a terrible draft. We went every other. I know I messed up on the Dolphins' second pick, but every other. Look, that's a pretty solid board. But I'm looking to see if there's going to be some more guys outside the normal top 32 that have been selected, so far this offseason in a lot of these mock drafts, to where I think you're going to get some guys that are going to surprise you in the first round. Let's see here. Yeah, Jacob Rodriguez, man, he's interesting. I'm not sold on him that early. And yeah, that was a straight up no trades. I'll do one more for y'all. We'll do one more. We'll do some trades. Let me make sure I select this right. Where's the Dolphins at? 11. Where's the other one? Oh, wait. That's why. Because the pick 24 doesn't show up. Pick 29 and 30 don't show up. Okay, you know what? I'll switch it up this time. I'm going to do evens plus the Lions. All right, here we go. Can you guys see the screen okay? Do I need to try to make it a little bigger? Might be about as good as I can get for now. All right, I'm going to start with a trade right away because this is what I'm hoping the Lions can pull something off here. And look, I don't think the Steelers are going to want to move up. So where can we find some value for the Lions? I don't think moving up is the answer in this draft. I really don't. And since they've done such a good job in free agency, moving back, man, that just, it sounds right to me. But there's going to be some limited teams that you're going to be able to move back with. You need to find the right teams that have the right picks. Right teams with the right picks. I hate how all of these teams don't show up. Like 22, 24, 26. So that would be... $29, 11 and 30, 13, 15, 46. One second, I gotta find it. Where is it? All right, Chiefs are 9 and 29. All right. Chiefs. I want 29 and 40. Trading all the way back. Let me pull up my sheet real quick. All right, so looking for a trade value comp. Okay, so 27-14 in 2018. That was the Marcus Davenport trade. The buying team gave up 27-147 and a first round pick to move up to 14. So that sounds pretty close. Would the Chiefs give up a future first round pick next year plus 29 and a fifth rounder to move up? More than likely, but I don't want their first round pick. What I want is 29, 40, and next year's 2. I think that's... Oh, someone doesn't like this trade. Let's find another one. One sec here. All right, here we go. 2018, the Packers traded 27 and 76 and 186 to the Seahawks for number 18 and a 7th round pick. So that was 27 to 18. That's as close as it's really going to get. So 29 for 17. And plus, it would be their 3rd and a 6th for number 18 and a 7. Yeah, I don't want that. I want 40. I'm going to force it. Oh, I don't know what I did. Didn't work. One more time. All right, let's just trade with the Patriots. No, they don't have what I need. All right, the Chiefs. What is going on here? Why is it not letting me? All right, I'm gonna have to reset this. I'm just going to force it. It's not what I'm looking to get in in compensation, but let's just see what happens. All right, Jets. They're going with Reese on my book. Titans. I think that they can go a lot of different ways here. I'm going to go edge. David Bailey. Caleb Downs goes, no way. Caleb at number 5? You got to be kidding me. Browns definitely going with the guard tackle Maui Noah. Saints Is there a linebacker left? No. But there certainly is Jeremiah Love. Who's the Saints running back? I don't know that they have. I wish that the PFF had the depth charts built into this. And I wonder how much longer this is even going to exist, because as far as I understand, like this whole side of their division is gone. Like they're getting rid of the content. Oh, they got Travis Achan and Alvin Kamara. They have like 6 or 7 running backs on their roster, but they don't have a Jeremiah Love. Carnell Tate to the Chiefs. Bengals, I still think that they're going to go with a DB here. Is it Thieneman or Delane? I would say yes, either one. Makes a lot of sense. You don't have a linebacker right now. We'll go Delane. Spencer Fano goes to the Dolphins. And I would say for the Cowboys, they have another pick, so we'll give him McCoy. Olavide Vega-Nioni going to the Ravens. Kenyon Sadiq goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Wow, that would suck. But it makes a lot of sense, man. You lost Evans. You get another big body guy out there that's pretty much a big body X receiver. Kind of like that move. Jets, they got Arvell Reese with their first pick. I don't think that they're going to take Trevor Simpson here. I think they're just going to try to get better everywhere they can. Man. Could you see him double up on edge in this draft? Wouldn't that be nuts? We'll give him the shifty Mekhi Lemon. Jordan Tyson goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Vikings definitely going to take a safety if there's one available. And there is. Or a defensive line. Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Omar Cooper to the Panthers. Cowboys back for their second pick in the first round. Tremad McCoy the first time. Keldrick Falk. Who'd the Lions get? We don't know yet, so we're picking at the end. Chargers, 22. Man, if you really wanted to move Caden Proctor inside, that would just be a massive problem for defensive lines. Joe Alt and Caden Proctor next to each other. Wow. Wow. Let's go ahead and let's give him a big body guy, man. We'll give him the receiver, Denzel Boston. Maui Noah went early to the Browns, and they might stick and add another guy, man. If Monroe Freeling was seriously here at 24, they would have a major upgrade to that offensive line. I'll give him 2 offensive linemen. That would be a daring move, but you wouldn't have to worry about your offensive line forever. Like, they got enough guys on that line right now they can shift around. I'll do Cassius Howell here or Caden McDonald. We'll go Caden McDonald. Damn, Caden Proctor goes to the San Francisco 49ers at 27, just 2 picks ahead of where I was hoping to land him. Texans. Defensive line, Caleb Banks, Peter Woods. And now the Lions at pick 29. But even though we're not doing a second round, I should have done a second round. We did have pick 40 in the trade. So if we end up with Blake Miller or TJ Parker, I'm not high on Cassius Howell. Caleb Banks, Colton Hood, Christian Miller, Caleb Lomu, Lee Hunter. We still have some really good football players left on the board if they decided to pick at 29 and add that second pick there. Yeah, with TJ Parker just not great at any one thing, that's kind of concerning. And then Caleb Banks, we need this guy to take a level up. Caleb Banks is now a Lion. Colton Hood goes to the Dolphins. TJ Parker goes to the Patriots. And the last team, I'm probably going to run this back one more time. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to add a second round. I'm curious who I can get at 40. Seattle Seahawks. You know what? I could see them flying with Cassius Howell. There you go. That's not a terrible draft. That's not a terrible draft. You know, the thing I like about Caleb Banks is that inside-outside versatility. You line him up 5-eye, you have him crash in, you do some stunts and twists with that guy. I just worry about his motor. He takes plays off on all the film that I've watched. He's here and then he's gone. And then he's here and then he's gone. The injury, it's a bit concerning. I dislike players with injuries just like anybody else. It's football, though. These guys are going to get injured. I think that, what he showed, again, I think it was the Panini Bowl. I think what he showed at the Panini Bowl was enough to maybe make you feel a little bit better. We'll do all the evens again in this one. And the Lions. And then we're going to make our trade right away. We're going to try it again. Kansas City was 29. So who's at 27? I don't have it in front of me. 49ers. See, but they have pick 58. I don't like 58. That's too far down the list for me. The Bears ain't trading with us. The Eagles don't have an early enough pick. So unless I traded twice, the Steelers have 53. Ooh, how about the Dolphins? 30 and 43. Let's try the Dolphins. 30 and 43 for 17 and 118. So if we were to pick at 30, 43, and 50, and then 128, I'll keep 118 versus 128. I wouldn't be mad at that. But maybe I want... Man, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks inside the top 100. Wow. 30, 43, and 94. And I'll give up 17, 118, and 128. No, we'll do 128, 157. That probably isn't going to work out. All I really care about is picking at 30 and 43 anyway. So here we go. Jets on the clock. I'm going to run it all the way back. Reese, see ya. Titans. Oh, Love's on the board. Well, we know it goes to the Giants. Now that one makes more sense. Browns. Browns. Ooh, offensive line got thinned in a hurry, didn't it? I don't think they take a receiver here. I still think they go guard or tackle, but it could be way early. I'll give him Fano. Answer Delane to Washington. I haven't seen him go that early before. Saints. Defensive line, linebacker, wide receiver. Oh, Carnell Tate. Bain goes to the Chiefs. I'll give him the safety this time to the Bengals. Bailey goes to the Dolphins. Cowboys. Wow. Man, this board got all screwed up in a hurry, didn't it? All right, let's go. Why not? Ken and Sadiq. That's scary. Monroe Freeling to LA makes a lot of sense. Dylan Thieneman to the Ravens. Could. But you're not going to walk away from Neone. Jets. Arvell Reese as usual in the first pick. Second pick. I'm going to give him Tyson. Kyle Lemon right after him to Miami. That's been a consistent. I'm taking a wide receiver with their second pick. Dylan Thieneman for sure to the Vikings. Jermod McCoy right after him to the Panthers, and then the Cowboys back on the clock. We'll give them C.J. Allen this time for the linebacker. Damn, Caden Proctor goes to the Steelers. He keeps going there too. Chargers, which makes me feel good that Proctor's still available at 17. But this is fantasy world. So here's the question. McNeil, Keldrick Falk. Keldrick Falk will be rated as the 5th best edge. Emmanuel McNeil obviously is the 2nd or 3rd best safety. I have him as the 1st. Avion Terrell or defensive lineman or wide receiver. I would say that Omar Cooper is probably going to give you better value there, even though they need a safety. Blake Miller, 23. Browns. Spencer Fano was the first pick. Denzel Boston. You know, I've been rolling with edge. We'll go Cade McDonald here for them. Avion Terrell goes to San Francisco. Interesting. Texans. Defensive line and interior offensive line are probably the most important. I wouldn't know why they would need a running back. The center is way too early. I'm going to give him Manuel Pregnant here. KC Concepcion goes to Kansas City and the Lions at pick 30. So you'd have your shot at Keldrick Falk I don't really believe in Cassius Howell. You know, here's the thing about Cassius Howell that I'm growing to like. If you deploy him as a specialist, I'm not saying that he would have to remain a specialist his entire career, but if you did utilize him as a specialist and he came in situationally, he provides a lot of speed, a lot of violence. Yeah, the arm length is a problem. But imagine if you put him back as an outside linebacker. What if the Lions put in like a 4 linebacker look? And you go 3 down linemen, and then you have a guy like Cassius Howell and Aiden Hutchinson standing up. And then you have like Ali McNeil, Tyleek Williams, and assuming Levi Onwuzurike is healthy, what if you put them on the line, and then you got Aiden and Cassius Howell? They're going to come crashing in, do some little games up front. He could be utilized in a situation like that in a 3-4 scheme. In a 4-3 scheme, I still think you could utilize him not so much on the line, but off the line, and utilize him to crash in and get after the quarterback with that speed. But I'm still running away from him. I'm still running away from him. Just not great linebackers here. Yeah. I'm going to go the run stuffer. Go Keldrick Fault. I still like Howell for the Seahawks. Man, Jets with a 3rd pick inside top 33. That is just crazy. They're going to have such a good draft. Like, Aaron Glenn's going to be competing, man. You're going to bring in Fano. You're going to bring in one of the best wide receivers. And then you're going to bring in either a corner, which they desperately need, Colton Hood. Titans, they got Love. And they really need an interior guy. All right. I think that the play here could be TJ Parker. Or you could take Lomu and potentially put him on the inside as a left tackle. I don't know that they need a left tackle, but you could potentially put him out on the inside. But we're going to go TJ Parker here. Texans. I gave him the guard. Too early for a center. Jadarian Price. Man, Browns on the clock again. They are just stacking them. Spencer Fano. Denzel Boston. Thought they had another pick in there. Man, Lomu's on the board. Bring him in. Pons is gone. It's a good pick for him. You know, that's where I was going to put Pons earlier with Kansas City at the back end of the first. I thought that was a great fit. I think that Kansas City likes those smaller guys. The Bengals, I gave them Caleb Downs. That takes care of the back end. Now you could be looking towards a linebacker, a defensive line, and potentially any guards that are left. You got Chase Bizantis here. But I don't think that he's better than. I don't think that he's going to be better than a Christian Miller. Christian Miller's too special of an athlete, man. Saints. This is where a linebacker could go for them. Receiver-wise, Chris Bell. This dude's just a freak. I really like Chris Bell. We'll give them the receiver. All right, so for our Lions, we brought in at the end of the first round by trading back Keldrick Falk. And then now at pick 43, we got our edge. Do you bring in a guy like Jacob Rodriguez? Potentially. I could see that. Do you bring in the corner? Or do you bring in the safety, AJ Halsey? I kind of like the safety pick here. You're not going to bring in a second edge. You didn't do anything for offensive line. There is a couple of options with offensive line a little bit later. And we are picking at pick 50 again. This is not the guy that I really like, but I think that the Lions might. And I don't think AJ Halsey's going to last. And see, that's the problem. Man, does it thin out in a hurry. You got the tight end back there. We won't see him. All right, brought in the guy that I said I wouldn't ever bring in, but man, when you're up against it. All right, Jets. They went Arvell Reese. They went Jordan Tyson. They went Colton Hood. And looky, Ty Simpson. Man, if they got Ty Simpson at 44, that would just be nuts. I could see it. Ravens. I gave them Leone. I don't know why I don't use that more often. They're not bringing in the second guard. The receiver room thins out in a hurry too. So the Ravens are definitely a downfield offense. I think that Brazel is a bit of a reach here. But Skylar Bell, I think Skylar Bell fits that team. Brandon Cease goes to the Vikings, or I'm sorry, to the Falcons, and now the Vikings on the clock. I gave them Dylan Thieneman. I'm glad that they don't have a lot of picks. They could be looking to add a running back here, quite honestly. I think it's a good spot to grab some running backs. Mike Washington makes a ton of sense. And then if you start looking at defensive line for them, like the defensive line room is just gone. if you wanted to pull the trigger on a center, I mean, I wouldn't hate the pick. But I think it's a bit early. Connor Lew's going to continue to slip. Slaughter's back at 90. And I don't know what picks they have next, but you could probably add a center later. The thing about Chase, though, is he's fairly versatile. You might be able to convert Chase to a center. All right, we'll give him the edge. Lions got Keldrick, Falk, Jacob Rodriguez, and so if this were to play out that they'd pick 30, 43, and 50, this is not a draft. This is one of the worst drafts I think that I've done for the Lions, but they get AJ Halsey. Omar Cooper had pick 22 for the Chargers, and Chase Basantis goes next. Texans, they got Emmanuel Pregnan and Jadarian Price. Danny Dennis Sutton. Last pick. Cassius Howell was the first pick, and Mike Washington. There you go. I'm still trying to figure out why you don't actually get a grade. Like, where's the grades at? I don't get it. All right, there you go. I'm out of here. I wouldn't like this draft. I would not like this draft for the Lions. So by trading back to pick 29, I'm sorry, to pick 30 with the Dolphins, the Lions added pick 43, and then they had their original pick at pick 50. So they ended up getting AJ Halsey at pick 50, the safety. They ended up getting Jacob Rodriguez at pick 43. So that fills a need. The question is he an outside guy? And when you look at where, his alignment is and where he's played, I'm going to tell you no. As a box linebacker, what you did is you just gave Jack Campbell an extremely good backup. putting him to the outside as an outside linebacker is going to be pretty difficult, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, but he's got a really good coverage grade and a really good run defense grade in the middle. I think he projects better as a 3-4 inside linebacker. But hey, the Lions have really good coaching. I think they're really smart about what they do. You can't replace, the type of player that he is mentally. And I think that lends to a lot of credibility for where he's being projected right now. Keldrick Falk is a big-time run defender. His pass rush win rate's a little bit light, but his run defense grade's off the chart. His run stop grade's off the chart. I really like this dude as a big body, that 6'6", 285-pound guy that has, great inside, outside leverage. Hell, even right here, I mean, you see the PFF has even said it now that they started putting this stuff together. Falk is not a pure pass rusher, but his length, strength make him an ideal fit for multiple or odd fronts. He excels at holding the line of scrimmage and generating pressure through power. And that's why I like him. The Lions were trying to establish that with Marcus Davenport, and it just didn't work out because he didn't stay healthy. So, look, there's a lot of options. I think that if the Lions trade back, they need to figure out a way to get 3 picks inside the top 90, top 75. Like they really need to figure something out. But somehow not losing 17. How do you do that? You'd have to give up next year's 1 to a team that has 2 1s. And maybe that's possible. Maybe that's possible that they give up some future draft capital, or they're going to have to trade a player. Or maybe we're just going to have to come to realize that we're going to get 2 players in this draft that could potentially help us. And that's the way most drafts go. So you can't expect everything in this draft because it doesn't exist. As deep as this draft is in certain areas, it's very light, very quick. It falls off in a hurry. So appreciate you guys joining me this long. We'll catch you guys over the weekend. I got some videos dropping. Akeem Messidor's up next. He'll be dropping here in a little bit. You guys take care.